Hello and welcome to the Law Patrol, proudly presented by Glazed Legal. On this channel, we take a look at all things legal and lawful as they happen in Australia and around the world. We review concepts, cases, and just generally shoot the breeze. Whilst we don't give advice, we can answer some questions and hopefully at least point you in the right direction. As we cover everything legal and don't shy away from the hard topics, we may occasionally cover themes or discussions that some may find disturbing or distasteful. So if necessary, make yourself a cup of concrete, put on your big kid pants and pull up a chair. If you have any questions or comments about anything we discuss, please don't hesitate to reach out by email at info@glazedlegal.com.au. Follow us on Facebook and remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Now, let's get into it.
And good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to today's episode of the Law Patrol. In the highlight news today, it's mostly about China, basically. China maintains demands despite Prime Minister Albanese rebuffing their claims. What was the other one? Albanese's flood promise, how businesses can get $50,000 for being in the flood-affected zones in New South Wales. That's national crime. What's the other one that I was looking at? Yes, US and Australia to launch major Pacific counterbid to combat China's rising influence. Damn it, I did have all these in a row. Oh well. Anyway, thank you to everyone that came across from the Nirvana channel. Nirvana stream, I should say. And thank you for putting up with me. But try and make things a little bit diverse. And I'm still a little bit pissy about YouTube taking down my previous one anyway. So, g'day, Shorter Cook. How you doing? CG's in the house. And Debbie, hi. How are you? All right, let's start off with something that's going to piss off the internationals. All right. China maintains demands despite Prime Minister's rebuff. China has maintained it is ready to thwart diplomatic relations despite Anthony Albanese cold shouldering Beijing after it released a list of demands. G'day, David. Generally, if you're going to give people demands and attach them to something that is supposed to be amenable, it's not really going to go down well. I think we've all seen that recently in various things. A statement from China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi listing four actions by which Australia could improve its relationship with Beijing was rebuffed by the Prime Minister on Monday. Mr. Albanese said Australia does not respond to demands. Fucking oath we don't. When asked during a press conference on Monday, but China's foreign ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said Beijing remained open to talks if the new government corrected its perception of China. China is ready to re-examine, recalibrate, and reinvigorate bilateral ties in the spirit of mutual respect and strive to bring bilateral relations back on the right track. Yeah, so the track that China wants it to be on. While he declined to comment directly on Mr. Albanese's comments, he said that an improvement in relations would help both nations. We hope that Australia will seize the current opportunity, take concrete actions and reshape a correct perception of China, work with China in the same direction and reduce liabilities and build positive dynamics for improving China-Australia relations. The Albanese government has been attempting to repair the damaged relationship between Beijing and Canberra since coming into power. Don't know why they're wasting their time. Foreign Minister Penny Wong met with her counterpart Wang Yi in Bali on Friday on the sidelines of the G20. It was the first time the foreign ministers had met face-to-face since 2019. According to a summary published by the Chinese Foreign Ministry, he issued Senator Wong with a list of measures that Australia should take to amend ties. Am I allowed to write up my own list of demands and forward it to them? Just to, balance things out? When asked about the demands, Mr. Albanese said he would stand up for Australia's national interest. I should fucking well hope so. Australia doesn't respond to demands. We respond to our own national interest. We will cooperate with China where we can. I want to build good relations with all countries, but we will stand up for Australia's interests where we must. Where's the other one on the other side of the field? US and Australia to launch major Pacific counterbid to China's rising influence. The United States will launch its biggest Pacific push since World War II, returning the Peace Corps to the region, releasing a Pacific-wide strategy and spending $900 million on economic development. The announcement, made by Vice President Kamala Harris on Wednesday, is designed to head off Beijing's increasingly assertive Pacific agenda. After the Chinese government signed a security deal with Solomon Islands in April and pushed for a regional economic bloc in May, splitting the Pacific Islands Forum as its leaders met for the first time in 3 years. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will fly into the divided leaders meeting in Suva on Wednesday as the forum reels from the withdrawal of Kiribati, an increasingly important partner for China in the region, and Pacific leaders plead for unity. In his speech to the Pacific Leaders Forum, Albanese expected to recommit to a new $6.5 million Asia-Pacific Defence School, the location of which is yet to be confirmed. During the May campaign election, Labor also promised an extra $525 million over 4 years in development assistance. Harris will address the forum via video link on Wednesday, 2 weeks after Beijing's request to send a delegation to the meeting was snubbed. The Vice President will tell the forum that the US plans to establish new embassies in Kiribati and Tonga, spend $900 million on fishing assistance in the next decade, and appoint the first US envoy to the Pacific Islands Forum, establish US aid agency in Suva, and implement climate change cooperation through partners in the Blue Pacific Network. In a briefing note, the US State Department said the US Peace Corps would also be redeployed to the region. The Peace Corps has historically provided most of their development assistance across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Harris will tell the Pacific Island Forum leaders that the milestone reflects the United States' robust and growing commitment to the Pacific Islands region. In Washington on Tuesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles used his first post-election trip to the US to warn that both countries must lift their game in the Indo-Pacific to avoid a catastrophic failure of deterrence in the face of growing threats. Marles, who was also the Defence Minister, vowed that Australia would do its share to bolster the military capabilities in the region, with the Albanese government determined to take a greater responsibility for its own security compared to its predecessors. The US and Australia have been criticised for neglecting the Pacific after the post-Cold War focus on Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Anna Powles, a Pacific security expert and senior lecturer at Massey University, said previous attempts to fashion US Pacific programs have lacked consistency and agency for Pacific nations. But China's ambitions to establish a military foothold in the Pacific, as well as its infrastructure investment throughout Fiji and other island nations, have forced the White House and Canberra to recalibrate their approach. The region has been frustrated by a lack of climate action, the economic impacts of the bug, and a perception that it was caught in a geostrategic struggle between the US and China. Fiji Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama told the Leaders Forum on Tuesday that climate change was hurting Pacific's security and livelihoods. It is damaging our economies, and in many instances, it is threatening our very sovereignty as climate-induced sea levels rise, which threatens our exclusive economic zones. On top of this, the global geopolitical landscape is hotly competitive as we see a multipolar system emerge featuring major superpower rivalry alongside a number of middle powers all clamoring to shape the world in their favor. Kiribati's withdrawal from the forum and growing concerns about Solomon Islands' security pact with Beijing prompted Foreign Minister Penny Wong to explicitly call for unity in her first official comments in Suva. The region is stronger together. It is a simple proposition, she said on Tuesday. All the nations are seeking to navigate challenges, and we do it at our best when we can do it together, and that's the approach that Australia has taken. And that's the approach the Pacific Islands Forum is taking, and that is why the Pacific Forum unity is so important. As I say, doesn't it sound really dystopian to name a branch of the US Armed Forces the US Peace Corps, like having a Ministry of Truth? Yeah, well, I mean, I can understand why they've had the Peace Corps and why it's used the way that it is, but I can understand what you're getting at there, CJ, honestly. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin described claims that China had encouraged Kiribati to withdraw as groundless. I would like to stress that China does not interfere in the internal affairs of Pacific Island countries. Bullshit! Excuse me, something caught my throat. NARU's president, Lionel Anjimia, also pulled out of the forum on Tuesday. The Pacific Island nation has formed close ties with Beijing, but Radio New Zealand reported on Tuesday that their withdrawal was due to rising levels of the bug after the small nation recorded more than 600 cases last week. Miles told the Center for Strategic and International Studies, one of Washington's leading think tanks, that the US and Australia could not afford to stand still as they grapple with a military build-up from China occurring at a rate unseen since World War II. In the years ahead, the US-Australia alliance will not only have to operate in a much more challenging strategic environment in the Indo-Pacific, it will need to contribute to a more effective balance of military power aimed at avoiding catastrophic failure of deterrence. What was the tour with contracts about? That's a very good question. Hang on. Texas has approximately 30 million people. Fair enough. In terms of the tour, presumably you're talking about Albanese heading overseas. Oh, okay. The tour of the Pacific Islands. Yeah. What do we get? Actually, I can probably share this as well because this is a reputable source. I just find it interesting that I generally take news from both sides of the political spectrum, both left and right, and as you just saw from both of those articles, one from each side, they're both condemning the interference of China and basically saying that there are going to be issues in the Indo-Pacific region. So when both sides of the political spectrum are questioning it, tends to be issues. 4 takeaways from China's tour of the Pacific Islands. As US-China competition in the region heats up, Pacific Island nations want to ensure engagement with both powers is on their own terms. In late May, as President Biden was wrapping up his visit to Asia, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi launched a 10-day tour of the Pacific Islands. Almost immediately, news broke that Wang had unexpectedly proposed sweeping multilateral agreements to deepen Beijing's security and economic ties with the region, then quietly withdrew the lack of support from the Pacific Island communities. This followed a controversial Solomon Islands-China Security Pact signed in April that sent off alarm bells in the United States and Australia over China's efforts to establish a security presence in the Pacific Island regions. Amid a raft of Asia-centered US diplomatic initiatives in the recent months, Wang's lengthy visit represents Beijing's determination to increase its influence and counter the Biden administration's efforts in the Indo-Pacific region. What efforts? Seriously? What's that? I don't know if it's anything like the US, but here the two major parties don't meaningfully differ on foreign policy, so you rarely get divergent takes on it in the MSM. No, look, foreign policy is one of the major ones where we can see some divergence here in Australia. In terms of how it's mainly illegal immigration is sort of really the big one where you see it sort of spiral out of control as to which party means what and all that sort of stuff. But it's more, you generally just don't expect it from the mainstream media here, even if the political parties do agree. That's the really weird thing about it. I mean, you'd almost never see news.com actually agreeing with The Age about something. Where was I? Wang visited 8 countries: the Solomon Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and Timor-Leste. Held virtual meetings with 3 additional nations, the Cook Islands, Niue, and the Federated States of Micronesia, and hosted a second round of the China-Pacific Island countries' foreign ministers meeting in Fiji. Wang's withdrawal of the proposed agreement and several Pacific Island countries' tepid response to it dominated the headlines during Wang's trip. But the visit illuminated 4 key developments that will shape China's future engagement and influence in the region. Wang's trip did not accomplish all of China's goals, but Beijing remains committed to expanding its influence in the Pacific Islands. Although the initial proposal stalled, Beijing made it clear that it still hopes to reach agreement on the Common Development Vision and the 5-year action plan as parties build more consensus. Before Wang's trip began, China's foreign ministry published a fact sheet. Curious. To highlight ongoing cooperation between China and the Pacific Island countries. And once the proposed plan was withdrawn, China quickly issued a positional paper on mutual respect and common development with Pacific Island countries, which offers 15 visions and proposals for deepening China's engagement in the region. Notably, this paper focuses largely on political and economic issues, as well as with the only brief mention of the security issues that it sparks most of the controversy. I can't even talk right now. Wang's trip succeeded in strengthening many of China's direct state-to-state relationships across the Pacific, as evidenced by the signing of 52 bilateral agreements. At every opportunity, Wang stressed China's commitment. So China really had their Wang out there. China's commitment to Pacific Islands regions and Beijing's intent to remain engaged over the long term. Secretary General of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, also pledged China's continued support in his written remarks at the China-Pacific Island countries' foreign ministers meeting. Holy shit, that's a mouthful. That's what she said. God, where the fuck is Kiwi? I'm doing my own jokes here. This is terrible. Chinese state media reported that Xi's address offered assurances that China will always be a good friend, brother, and partner in Pacific Island countries, sharing common goals and standing together with them despite changes in the international landscape. China sees both symbolic and strategic benefits to strengthening its relationships with the Pacific Island countries. Beijing wants to increase its presence in the region to ensure the United States does not establish unchallenged influence and to frustrate US military power projection in a potential conflict over Taiwan. Economically, Beijing seeks to access the region's fisheries and over maritime resources, as well as its trade and shipping routes. The region also offers China diplomatic leverage. Stronger relations in the Pacific help Beijing further isolate Taiwan, gain votes of support in the United Nations, advance its Belt and Road Initiative, and enhance its image as a reliable partner and viable alternative to major powers in the region. Yeah, until it all comes crumbling down. Many Pacific Island countries remain wary of China's intentions, especially related to security issues. As well, they fucking should. Wang's first stop was the Solomon Islands, which was reeling from the bilateral security agreement signed on April 1. Prime Minister Sogavari's support for Beijing remains controversial, and his critics worry that China is now in a position to prop up an unpopular regime and undermine the democratic process in the name of maintaining social order. Opposition leader Matthew Whale observed, "It is clear to me that the vast majority of ordinary Solomon Islanders do not want a base here or even in this deal. A majority do not want China here at all in the first place." Beijing also encountered other stumbling blocks along the way. Just before Wang visited Fiji, the Fijian president announced that his country would become a founding member of the US-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which China opposes. In Kiribati, domestic public opinion remains wary of closer ties with Beijing, following rumors last year that China planned to upgrade a World War II airstrip in the country, which would damage the country's already strained fish stocks. There, the opposition leader warned, "Our democratic system, in fact our very sovereignty, is under attack, and we need support to ensure our survival as a democratic nation." The president of the Federated States of Micronesia offered the most vocal opposition to China's proposed regional plan, calling the plan the single most game-changing proposed agreement in the Pacific in any of our lifetimes. He implored his fellow Pacific Islander leaders to reject the offer, and he further predicted that the proposal would draw the region very close to Beijing's orbit, intrinsically tying the whole of the economies and societies to China, and warned that Chinese control over the communications infrastructure and our territory and the resources within them and our security space, aside from impacts on our sovereignty, increases the chance of China getting into conflict with Australia, Japan, the United States, and New Zealand. Throughout the tour, local populations expressed frustration at the lack of transparency around the visits. In many places, China restricted the number of foreign journalists allowed at the press conferences and prohibited them from directly asking any questions. Am I supposed to be shocked by that? More to the point, though, if they are in another country, what gives them the right to decide whether or not foreign journalists could be present? The Media Association of the Solomon Islands went so far as to issue a boycott notice to its members, urging them to skip the press event to protest the restrictions China had placed on local reporters. China's aggressive moves likely inspired the United States, Australia, and New Zealand to expedite and strengthen their outreach in the region and better coordinate their engagement. The United States' February 22 Indo-Pacific strategy emphasizes the importance of the Pacific Islands to the United States, and the Biden administration has taken several steps to deepen U.S. engagement in the region, including at the presidential and secretarial states of levels, and with more high-level outreach expected in the months ahead. What's that, Libby? The number of leaders attending the Pacific Islands Forum has dropped further, with both the presidents of Marshall Islands and the Cook Islands Prime Minister pulling out. Right. All right. The newly elected Australian government also took immediate steps to reinforce Canberra's commitment to its Pacific Island neighbours through high-level visits and a neighbourhood first policy. As Wang weaved his way through the region, Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong conducted her own visits to Fiji, Samoa, and Tonga. And on 31st of May, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and President Biden issued a joint statement that highlighted their shared commitment to the Pacific Islands, noted with concern that the security agreement that China and the Solomon Islands signed on April 1, and warned against the establishment of persistent military presence in the Pacific by a state that does not share our values or our security interests. G'day, Dan. How are you? Australia not long ago signed a government economic agreement with about 5 other countries for the region, so we're working with them and then working against them. Okay, so convoluted. Nari's Lonong is also understood not to be attending ostensibly because of the soaring. Yeah, yep, we covered that earlier. All right. The Pacific Island countries want closer and sustained ties with the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, but they want those relationships to focus on the needs and priorities of the countries in the region, not on countering China. All three countries have taken steps to re-energize their engagement in the region, but China's ambitious push has emphasized the need to better coordinate their efforts in the weeks and months ahead. Although the region refused to be rushed into a multilateral deal, the Pacific Island countries are still very open to China's engagement, but on their terms. The Pacific Island countries did not embrace China's proposed Common Development Vision and Action Plan, but neither did they definitively reject it. Rather, they said they needed more time to consider it and wanted to discuss it as a group at the Pacific Islands Forum in July. We have not made a decision as we did not get enough time to look at it. There's a shocker, said the Samoa Prime Minister. However, it is unclear that even after a deeper look at the Pacific Island nations will accept China's proposal. The PIF prefers making decisions deliberately and based on consensus, which could spell trouble for China's plan. Australia and New Zealand are members of the PIF, as are the Republic of the Marshall Islands, Palau, Tuvalu, and Nauru, all of whom have diplomatic ties with Taiwan instead of Beijing, and they may not be supportive of the agreement. But Pacific Island countries remain very open to stronger bilateral ties with China, especially in the economic realm. China has the immediate appeal of being able to bring much-needed investment, infrastructure, trade, and bug-related assistance, as these countries all contend with headwinds from weakening global economies and try to recover from the bug's negative impacts. With China, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and others all seeking to increase their engagement, the Pacific Island countries have more options and more negotiating power to press for arrangements that best address their needs. In a 2019 speech examining China's increased engagement in the region, then Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum, Dame Meg Taylor, rejected the notion that the states should choose sides between the United States and its allies and partners and China. Instead, she noted that, in general, forum members view China's increased actions in their region as a positive development, one that offers greater options for financing and development opportunities, both directly in partnership with China and indirectly through the increased competition in the region. Ultimately, the Pacific Islands countries want to know what the powers are know that the powers vying for their attention and offering cooperation understand their concerns and are willing to help them address the issues that are most important to their own populations. As Fiji's Bainimarama put it, geopolitical point scoring means little to anyone whose community is slipping beneath the rising seas, whose job is being lost to the bug, or whose family is impacted by the rise of the price of commodities. And just in case the foreign officials jet setting around the world hadn't heard the message loud and clear, he reiterated, our greatest concern isn't geopolitics, it's climate change. Interesting. About the author, Jennifer Statz, PhD, Director, East and Southeast Asia. Okay, fair enough. And that was taken from, what are they called? USIP. United States Institute of Peace. All right, I think I've missed a few things in the chat there. I think I have a 4-year-old that's just knocked on the door. Sorry, guys, 2 seconds. All right, sorry about that. Well, I am to a certain extent. There's nothing quite like sleepy toddler cuddles, I'll be perfectly honest. All right, where was I in the chat? Trying to go around the whaling ban. Look, potentially. I think I read those ones. Changes are at a slow pace that aren't obvious over a human perception. It will be the order of a few degrees change. Interesting. So who the hell has left you and us is all about. Yeah, well. I have to see where things go, basically. If anyone believes anything China signs onto, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona I need to sell. Fair enough. Marshall Islands President David Kobua said he would have attended the summit, but was not able to because of highly legislative binding action to terminate the country's membership in the forum. Interesting. Climate change will likely be only addressed through geopolitics. Looks like the US will lean heavily on AU for regional power projection and pushing back against China. Yeah, which I'm not 100% sure. I enjoyed the articles you opened with today, Hayden. I'll change from age. Yeah, look, I kind of figured that I needed to broaden the horizons a little bit. So, plenty of controversy without having to deal with that bimbo. All right, so close that. I'm not going to read through that entire. Hi from the UK. G'day, how you doing? Thank you for dropping by. I will read through that fact sheet that I just opened up, but I will do that on my own time because it is a good few pages and no need to keep you guys being bored. Visit to Pacific Island countries, practice change. All right, what else we got? That's the China article, so I can get rid of that. Okay, in local news, as a result of the New South Wales floods, the federal government has announced emergency payments for bloody dog, I swear. Wait, no, the dog's outside. Must have been the cat. Okay, Anthony Albanese's flood promise: how businesses can get $50,000. More than $172 million in emergency support has been promised to people, councils, businesses, and farmers affected in the latest flooding disaster in New South Wales. Anthony Albanese said the Commonwealth will share the costs of the cleanup efforts and a series of new grants with the state government. The Prime Minister made the announcement standing beside New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet in Sydney on Tuesday. Mr. Albanese said the federal government would split the bill 50-50 with the state government for immediate cleanup and recovery effort, which is set to cost an estimated $80 million. The Commonwealth would also cover half the Primary Producer Recovery Grants program, which offers individual payments of up to $75,000 at a total estimated cost of $55 million. It will do the same for small businesses and non-profit organisations with recovery grants of up to $50,000 at a total cost of $27 million. Mr. Albanese also announced a $1 million recovery grant for each council in the 37 disaster-related declared local government areas to assist with their immediate needs, such as urgent repairs. This support is absolutely necessary in order for people to get through what has been an extremely difficult time. We know that many of these communities have been hit with 3 flood events after those same communities were hit by the impact of the bushfires in 2019-2020. So my heart goes out to these communities. Eight more local government areas were declared disaster zones on Tuesday, taking the total to 37. Flood victims in these areas are able to apply for emergency financial assistance programs. Mr. Albanese said 621,700 people have been affected by the severe floods, and they had received more than $514 million in emergency relief payments through the Government Disaster Assistance Program. What's that? How long will it be before Australia has blackouts? Yes, we already have them, depending on the particular state you're in. As of a couple of weeks ago, there was rolling blackouts. There was some brownouts here in Victoria. Crystal's just dropped in. G'day. So you might be able to speak a little bit better on the blackouts across New South Wales, whether or not they were particularly egregious, as was expected, but yeah. Where was I? Mr. Albanese said the disaster payments would be audited, but this would occur in retrospect to prevent any delays to the much-needed financial assistance. Mr. Perrottet said it was inevitable that some people would fraudulently register for the government payments, which he said was disgraceful. And if you do that, we will catch you out. But from a state and Commonwealth perspective, it is most important right now that we provide the assistance as quickly as possible to those who need it. And as the Prime Minister has said, significant ordinance will be in place in the following period. The two leaders lauded the cooperation between their respective levels of government during the latest extreme weather disaster to strike New South Wales this year. Hang on, I got a comment on this. Build more windmills so you have no power when the wind stops makes no sense to me. Look, that's all well and good, Dwayne, but the simple fact of the matter is it was one of you guys that actually solved South Australia's power problems. So they were having significant blackouts and whatnot, and yes, they were dealing with having renewals and that sort of thing. And it was fucking Elon Musk who came in, did on a bet, basically, and built one of those giant-ass Tesla batteries, which is now storing all the wind energy for when the wind's not blowing. So saying that there's no energy when the wind's not blowing is just not accurate, because it gets stored and it gets used. So they're now able to turn the heaters on. They're now able to turn the aircons on in summer, where blackouts have been a really big problem. And I kind of wish that he'd done that for every other state. Someone else needs to put up $100 million to try and get him to do it in 6 months again. That's not to say that I think that wind is necessarily the be-all and end-all. I still think that taking everything into account, nuclear is probably the way we're going to have to go eventually. Because yes, although when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong, it's one of that... it's one of those cases where we need the energy, basically, as much as I hate to say it. So, what's that? USA is just as crazy. Battery power is extremely limited. Yeah, and I'm a little bit concerned about them. South Australia had bad blackouts. Yeah. What was I saying? I'm wondering whether or not the whole storage capacity of batteries and that sort of thing for states and countries at that level. Look, I should probably put the tinfoil hat on for this, but I'm wondering whether or not that's deliberate. What do we got? Electricity problems are because the coal plants are not running at full capacity as they want to hike up the prices. Yes, that's the other issue, is that there is unfortunately money involved, which is the other reason why I don't believe that utilities like power plants should ever have been privatized. That should always have been government mandated. Careful building them in the backyard. Hayden covered a story where people were outraged the guy did this in his backyard. That is true. Although, to my knowledge, that has not come down yet. That windmill in his backyard is still there, as far as I'm aware. My state will pay to put solar panels on homes. Yeah, I think here in Victoria, it may even be coming in that it's necessary for solar panels to be included in new builds. If that hasn't already, I know that was floating around. I can't remember off the top of my head whether or not it's come in or not. Kind of just makes sense to me, though, to be honest. Where are we? We know it's been a very difficult time. I think the most important is that you have all three levels of government working together to ensure we get every single person through this challenging time. New South Wales Treasurer Matt Keane flagged the possibility of additional financial support down the track, saying that there was much more recovery work to be done. We're at the start. Oh, Jesus Christ, really? 17%? That makes me mad. That really makes me mad. There are already people out there that cannot afford to turn on their heater in the middle of winter. 3 levels of government, what are they? So here, for the most part, here in Australia, you've got your federal, you've got your state, and then technically we have local government. So your local council areas are considered a level of government. They don't technically. They're not recognised in our constitution. Let's put it that way. But they are sort of pseudo quasi government because you got to have something at the local level. Mostly they just hand out parking fines. I'll be perfectly honest. You could easily take the local government, have it reabsorbed into the state government, and have them deal with their own issues. But they basically delegated it to the local areas, and they call that local government or local council. Yeah, pretty much. My parents put in a solar-powered hot water back about 15 years ago. It ended up being almost free as the government rebate. Cool. And have they seen much of a reduction in the energy costs? Oh, yeah. Rubbish and road local. True. We're at the start of the recovery, and our two governments will make the necessary financial commitments to get these communities back on their feet as soon as possible. Mr. Keane praised the dedication and resilience of the emergency services workers, volunteers, and locals in protecting their communities in the extreme weather events. It's been nothing short of extraordinary. I want to thank them for their amazing efforts. And yeah, I think Crystal's probably got it on the nose there. It's probably equivalent to county. You prefer to get rid of states, really? Interesting. Okay. I can't really say that there'd be too many that would agree with that, simply because oh, Jesus. Okay, just had everything blow up in the chat there. I think so. They don't live there anymore. Okay, fair enough. Hey, Scott, how you doing? None, actually. I was doing the singing stream went down the crapper. Even I got kicked out of it. So, I clicked a button and something changed, and then everyone got left out. And then I was trying to fix it, and then I had to go and pick my daughter up, and it turned into a whole big mess. So, but we will have more singing. We will have more singing. Just not right now because it's 1 a.m. and my daughter just woke up as it is. So, we have a problem in Australia as coal is our greatest export and basically stabilizes our economy. Yes, the trouble is that when we have a finite resource as the backbone of our economy, eventually that causes problems. In particular, when that particular export is politically controversial across various nations. So. Ruby says, talking about power plants in Texas, and we are asked to lower our AC load. Last night, electricity was shut off. Flipping infuriating after the freeze issues we had last winter. Yeah, see, and that's just it. As I said, there is absolutely no excuse for why anyone should have to not have their there's no reason why anyone should have to be able to not turn their lights on, not turn the heater on, not cook their food, all that sort of shit. I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, I consider that a basic human right. It's decency for people to be able to live in a society where they can actually be comfortable, if not in a situation where they are potentially going to become unalived because they can't turn the bloody heater on. Like, seriously, people. But anyway, not a lot that we can do about that here now in Australia, given that the power stations were privatised, decades ago. But they need to look into sustainable, long-term replacements for the coal power plants. And I'm sorry, as I said, nuclear is a bad word, but fuck it. If we put it out in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the South Australian desert, or in the middle of Northern Territory, in the unpopulated areas, even if shit goes wrong, it's not going to matter so much. I mean, yes, as I said, when shit goes wrong, it goes very wrong, but it's still one of the cleanest and safest ways that we can deal with things. So, well, you might have a good export if some EU countries are returning to coal. True, but again, it's a finite resource here, so. I hope Texas would take steps to stabilize the energy grid after the failures last year. Really, what does a state government do? Police, education, health and education is already split with the federal. Yes, but there is a significant number of isolated legislation. I mean, there is a lot of things that I would not want the federal government to be in charge of. Because I'm sorry, but Melbourne is a very different place to Sydney, as it is to Perth, as it is to Brisbane. We all have different views on things. So I'd be more inclined to have the state government absorb the local council and take on the additional resources there, because having the local government dealing with all those issues, you're going to have far too many varied versions of legislation. You're going to have far too many. I mean, even the Planning Act and that sort of thing amongst the different local councils here in Victoria, that alone causes enough issues, let alone if all of a sudden the local government were dealing with making sure that the police force was running properly, whether or not there was anti-corruption, whether or not there was all sorts of things that the state government's in charge of at the moment. So no, I disagree with you, Crystal. I can't see ever getting rid of the state governments. Honestly, we need that medium level of representation, but I would be happy seeing the local government disappear. Don't think federal are capable of absorbing state government responsibilities. No, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think they'd wind up delegating, which is more or less what's happened with state to local. Exactly. We were told to set for heat, not cold. Well, not heat or cold. Of about 12 friends down in Texas I heard their stories. None of that should have ever happened. We also have a huge uranium deposit and rare metals. It will be a fight over the mining giants. Yes, but that does mean that we can get in on we can go and buy up the stocks in the mining giants now and wait and see which ones actually get the mining rights to the uranium and stuff. So fingers crossed. Yep, it was crazy last winter. Why do you think the US maintains friendships with you? Because you want the uranium and the coal. I'm on a disabled pension and have not used a heater for 12 years. Jesus, David, really? Dude, I'm really, really sorry to hear that. No, cheers, CJ. Crystal, there is a new nuclear option that is cleaner and safer. Yeah, which is basically we need the development of the newer technologies. Gas bill went up $3 this last winter. Really, $3? Is that all? Texas fell for the green BS, and we're beginning to pay for it. Okay. Yep, separation between the state and federal. I meant uranium, but haha, coal, yes, coal. I think nuclear is a great solution. It just sucks that building new plants takes years and billions of dollars. The issue needs to be attacked from all vectors. Wholeheartedly agree on that. Yep. Fine with the nuclear, but once again, when something goes wrong, it affects the entire planet and beyond. We can't get this right, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, that's because I don't think we're ever going to. I mean, look, humanity as a species has probably evolved beyond what Mother Nature ever intended, okay? We have spread across the planet. We have developed, we've destroyed various bits and pieces of nature. I'm by no means like a greenie, but I'm just stating facts. I mean, the house that I'm sitting in, this would have been the property that I'm on would have been a square acre of Australian wilderness. So it's just a literal fact. So it's kind of like, well, hang on, how are we supposed to maintain energy provisions for that sort of level of population if we don't look at high energy producing processes? I mean, the invention of the steam engine was great, moving on through various bits and pieces, taking on combustibles and all that sort of thing. But at some point, we need to actually look at it. What I'm hoping would be a holy grail for energy production. Because, I mean, Kia was talking about Dyson spheres and that sort of thing and harnessing the 100% of the energy of the sun and that sort of thing. But we're still a shit ton. We're still a far, far away from that. So in the meantime, we just need to do what we can to make sure that people are able to turn their fucking heaters on in the middle of winter. They've been yapping about $1 million profits for years but never upgraded. It's their fault but no responsibility. Yeah. I love Sky News. I get more truth with US politics than our mainstream media. Yeah, look, I wouldn't necessarily take Sky News as gospel, but no, fair enough. A lot of people who do geothermal have no complaints. Fair enough. That's something to look into. There are already issues with local government and the difference between local acts and regulations. Yeah. Natural gas to heat the house. For us, it's a huge spike. It was a difference of almost $200 a month. Yeah, look, the gas bills around here aren't great either. I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, there was one where I got an $800 bill last winter for, I think it was either a month or 2 months. So that's, and it was bloody huge, and I contested it quite significantly, but now when I enter home with heating, I cannot take it too hot. Oh, jeez. Sorry to hear that. You're at least somewhere not too cold. Here in California, I don't technically need to use my heater, but it gets to the 50s maybe on a cold night. To be fair, most people use way more electricity than they need to. I cut my bill and usage drastically after an astronomical bill a few years ago. Sky News is trash. Oops, didn't mean the mixed caps. Oh well, shit happens. I seem to remember hydropower in Vic back in the 60s. Is that right? Yes, I think you're right. I mean, Pacific Hydro still runs hydroelectric plants across Victoria. Hydroelectric Victoria. Which ones are still running? So Lake Alden, Hume, and Dartmouth are still running as hydroelectric dams. So. Yeah, fair enough. Good, all good points. $800 gas bill, that's outrageous. Yeah, it was. If you're interested, they're showing new images from the JWST. Is that just photos or do they have footage? Every nuclear accident in history occurred because existing safety measures were ignored. I don't know if that's strictly true. What about Fukushima? I mean, that was basically the result of the earthquake, wasn't it, and the tsunami? I don't know if that's necessarily ignoring safety concerns, but it's photos. It's a space telescope. Oh no, I figured that. I was just hoping to put like a stream on in the background while I keep talking. Okay, yep. So ABC News has something there. This will probably get copyright struck, but what the fuck? Yeah, medium quality will do.
NASA has revealed the first image from the James Webb Telescope, providing a deeper glimpse into the universe than ever before. The image reveals a vast array of galaxies, which are some of the earliest formed after the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago. It's the sharpest infrared image of the distant universe to date. Launched on Christmas Day, the James Webb Telescope is the biggest and most powerful telescope ever put into space.
It is going to be so precise, you're going to see whether or not planets, because of the chemical composition that we can determine with this telescope of their atmosphere, if those planets are habitable. And when you look at something as big as this is, we are going to be able to answer questions that we don't even know what the questions are yet.
A lot of excited astronomers around today. Dr. Rebecca Allen is an astronomer at Swinburne University of Technology, and she joins us now from Melbourne. Rebecca Allen, welcome. Before we get into the detail of this, just how are you feeling having seen this landmark image for the first time?
Well, you can tell I can't get the grin off my face. I kind of feel like I want to jump out of my own skin. It's, of course, just even more beautiful than we could have.
Call me pessimistic, but given that this has come out and it's something that distracts people's attention, can I expect some sort of horrible news in the press sometime in the next couple of days?
Imagined.
So we're going to bring up some of the images of this now, and feel free to talk to us. What are some of the key features of this?
So what we're seeing is what's called a foreground galaxy cluster. And so you can see that very bright node in the very center there. That's a group of galaxies. And there's so much mass contained in that in that cluster that it's bending space-time around it. And you can see these gorgeous arcs or smears of red around it. And these are galaxies that are actually behind the cluster, that their light has been bent so that we can see them. Now, what's special about the JWST version of this is that we're seeing wavelengths of this redder light than even Hubble couldn't see. So we're actually seeing even fainter, more distant galaxies than we were able to image before. And clusters, it's such a brilliant target because it really kind of lets us cheat a little bit and see things which are so distant we wouldn't be able to see them, even with JWST's amazing ability. Now here you're seeing some really red galaxies. I'm getting excited. Now some of these are going to be extremely distant, and they probably existed, their light reached us, is coming from billions of years ago. So when the universe was maybe only a few billion years old, it's now almost 14 billion years old. And this really bright red galaxy kind of to the right, now that could be a bright dusty galaxy. And so we have this degeneracy where things might be old, but they could also be very dusty from a lot of star formation. So JWST is going to be able to help us identify these really important galaxies that help us understand how galaxies form stars and grow over time. So that red light can be very old stars, and it could also be from a lot of dust from very active star formation. So it's a really important process.
And so I'm probably going to ask a few dumb questions here, so forgive me, but how the light has traveled to us over a long period of time. So is it the case that some of these galaxies might not exist anymore, or might look very different now to what we're seeing, considering this has taken so long for the light to get to us?
That's right. So what we're seeing is especially see this galaxy here that's kind of in the bottom center that looks like a red.
Why are we expecting bad news? Just because I'm paranoid. In general, when something like this, which is momentous, don't get me wrong, but it does seem like it may be a distraction. So that's just me being paranoid. Always expect the worst and be pleasantly surprised. That is my absolute number one motto. So, yeah, look, I think it's pretty freaking amazing. I'll be perfectly honest. The photos themselves and being able to see things that are, what were they saying? Millions of years old? Old and dusty sounds like my dead grandmother. That's terrible. Important process equals we have no clue, need more data. This crap from NASA will do nothing to mankind. These images look like bacteria under a microscope. Yeah, and look, the simple fact of the matter is that's fairly... You see that on a lot of different scales. I've actually heard of that phenomenon before. If you take macro shots of the universe, it's almost always invariably quite similar to what you would see under a microscope. So that particular shot there does very much look like, could be a blood sample, could be germs, could be anything. So if they move, be afraid. Such a Capricorn outlook. I'm a Capricorn too, though, lol. Quantum. Yeah, fair enough. What do we got? Another 7 minutes of this. All right.
Kind of a red streak. Now, that is probably a very distant galaxy that's very dusty and forming a lot of stars. And we're seeing its light as it would have been probably when the universe was only a few billion years old. And so that's incredible because now it might look much like our Milky Way galaxy does. It might have formed a lot of its stars.
Okay, and now I think we can bring up a shot of the Hubble telescope image. So this was the landmark image from 20 years ago. And so what we're seeing now is a significant advance on that, obviously.
Wow. Okay, so that's how far we've come in 20 years.
Advanced over that time. And I think during your answer, we might be able to bring up a shot of them side by side.
Yeah, look, fantastic. So Hubble, still groundbreaking, phenomenal. This image that we're seeing, it would have taken much longer to get the kind of what we call depth. So the amount of light that's captured from those faint distant sources, but also the type of light.
So basically they increased the resolution on the webcam is what I'm gathering.
A limit to what Hubble could see compared to JWST. So it's still a fantastic image that provides a lot of detail. But as you can see here with the JWST comparison, in a much shorter amount of time.
Not only do we not know shit about the universe, we don't know shit about our own oceans.
So we're seeing what we call higher resolution. So more of that detailed, what we call galaxy morphology of the real shapes of galaxies. And we're detecting light, like you see this bright red blob here. It's very scientific terminology. So that is just something that Hubble just wasn't able to see. So it's about the depth and the detail, but also just these wavelengths. And so that translates to information about the stars, about the chemicals that are going on in these galaxies.
And the description of this new images, which is the one on the left that we're seeing here, Hubble is one on the right, is that the new image is as the deepest we've seen into space.
It's significantly more detailed.
How deep were we looking into space with the Hubble image compared to this image that's just been released this morning?
So with the Hubble image, the deepest that we're probably able to see is galaxies that were formed, or the light from galaxies when the universe was probably about 1 billion years old. That would be the very furthest that we could see. And I imagine JWST will have pushed beyond that, and we'll see. And it's a bit challenging because the scale, when we're talking about things like redshift, so that's how far away the light is and what time it is in the universe. And so I would imagine that this JWST image, once we get a little bit more information, so we're seeing the light, we have to break that up a little bit to really understand what we call the spectrum. And that tells us the exact kind of distance and time that galaxy exists. But
no, I do wholeheartedly agree with you on that, CG. It's very much exciting to see what will happen for the future generations. I mean, looking at this particular picture, I can honestly say that is significantly more detailed and in depth than anything that I'd previously seen. And it's interesting to see that they're saying that it's the light is a billion years old. So there's a good chance that the stars and galaxies that we're looking at there no longer exist. They may well have burnt out already. I mean, my understanding is that they reckon the calculations on our own sun is that it won't last anywhere near as long as 1 billion years. So, I mean, one of my favorite memes is that whole one about sunlight has traveled however million kilometers, and then it gets what is it? It's traveled so many thousands of kilometers. And you put your fucking head in the way and it hits you instead of the ground. Or something like that. Okay, that was terrible. Anyway. It's important to study outside our planet, and sadly it is costly, but I don't know if there's any true check on the spending programs. And Parallax says the technological advancements from the space program are hard to measure. No, look, that's true. I will agree to that. I do think that scientific investment is necessary. I mean, look, if it weren't for the CSIRO here in Australia, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi. It wouldn't exist. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's. Whilst I agree that we need to be spending money on humanitarian programs and helping people in our own backyard, I should say. It is a worthwhile pursuit to be looking out into the universe. But again, as I said before, we also don't know shit about our own backyard. I mean, it's like 3% of the actual ocean's been explored to the bottom depths. So, we seem to be reaching out into the stars when we're not dealing with our own shit first. That's sort of how I feel on a lot of different types of policies. It's how I feel on foreign aid. I do think that countries should be looking after their own people as a matter of priority. Whilst, yes, you do need to... Lucky Kiwi's not here. I'm sure he's sneaking around in the background. Either that or he's fallen asleep with his face on the keyboard again. Oh, I should check my phone. I haven't seen whether or not there's any... Yeah, no, fair enough. What was I saying? No, fuck it. Never mind. Elon, Zuckerberg, and Mr. Amazon are putting all their own constellation around the Earth. Hundreds of thousands of them. Unfortunately, they're interfering with telescopes that are Earthbound. Yes, that is very annoying. Oh, that's what I was saying. Thank you, Libby. That we need to be looking after people in our own backyard first. Foreign aid is one thing, and yes, there are extenuating circumstances where it is necessary. But if that foreign aid becomes a crutch to another country, I think that money should be used to sort out our country's own wounds first. I'll be perfectly honest with that. I do not believe that any child should ever go to bed without food or without somewhere to sleep that's warm and safe because it's not affordable. As far as I'm concerned, that is absolute bullshit. When you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. There can be reasons why you wind up on the street. There's reasons why you can wind up homeless. Not all of them are always in your own control. But that's never within a child's realm of responsibility or capability. So, no, as far as I'm concerned, we should be spending money domestically to look after our own first. If we can work out how to fix our own shit first, then we can assist others and show them the way and that sort of thing. So, we can only advance as advanced as our current science is. I jokingly say, "Where's my flying car? Where's my teleportation pad?" Well, that's a scary ass shit. So, where did I hear it on the radio a couple of weeks ago? George Jetson from the Jetsons would have been born this year, a couple of months ago. We are nowhere near having robot maids or flying cars. Space travel research is being privatized, a great thing, and people are still upset about it. Yeah, no, look, I'm all for private. Admittedly, the space travel, I'm happy for them to privatize that because that's going out beyond our stars. If they want to spend some of that money to bolster existing things, that'd be great. I mean, look, Elon, if you don't get around to buying Twitter, feel free to buy the Australian electricity conglomerates and show them how it's done. Honestly. Would you take your family to Mars if Musk sends a colony there? It can't be much different from Australia. Look, not as part of the initial thing. I would consider it down the track once the terraforming got underway. If it got to a point where I was able to breathe outside of a dome, potentially. Am I doing that shit with Matt Damon and The Martian? Fuck no. Not a chance in hell. I don't like potatoes that much. Space will never be anything other than space. There will never be a Star Trek. Fair enough. The black space budgets of the US, China, Europe, India, etc. are immense. Billions of dollars. You'd never know, though. Yeah. Just because the money is spent on a science program doesn't mean it doesn't benefit everyone else. Most of the technology and discoveries that they come up with become adaptable to our daily lives. Yeah, exactly. Keep humans away from ocean exploration. Humans destroy too much. Sea life collectively thinking. Remember, we have food and fuel and everything is seen inflation, so is everything else. This country needs housing. Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Lovely, Libby. On the same mindset. Current NASA budget approximately $53 million per day. Fuck off, really? I can only imagine what I could do with $53 million in a day. You know, give me 1 day's worth of NASA, and I will do my best to fix as many issues as I can in society. Technically, we're just a bunch of invasive beings living invasive lives. We don't really have a housing problem. We have an empty house problem. Okay, maybe in New South Wales that might be the issue. Down here, it's not so much. When I served, a single flight Takeoff cost $1 million. Stuff costs a lot more than we think. I find that out every time I go grocery shopping. Yeah, fair enough. Mike Cannon-Brookes tried to buy AGL and they said no, as they didn't like his renewables plan. Yeah, I can't say I'm shocked. Honestly, there's too much money in it at the moment. As soon as the fossil fuels and all that sort of stuff start drying up and the profit leaks out of it, you watch them run for renewables. You watch them run for other areas where all of a sudden it will be beneficial to their bottom line and their hip pockets to get into it. Probably no atmosphere within our generation, but I'd strongly consider going there if the opportunity was there. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying I'm aware of the money. I'm aware of the technology, but I'm also aware of management. Yeah, doesn't management always kill things? Crystal, is your government making empty houses legal? No, the issue with empty houses, as far as I understand it, Crystal can correct me if I'm wrong, basically private investors. A lot of it is issues with investors from overseas purchasing property and then leaving them empty here in Australia, not renting them out or raising the rent too high that you can't actually use them. I'm kind of in the... look, I'm going to say something controversial here. No, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to... Lock your ears, people.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Are you not entertained?
Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
We have losers. We have losers.
Everybody's very fat, everybody's very stupid, and everybody's very rude.
Is it possible you're wrong?
No.
Then there's no point in talking to you.
You know
just
why,
might as well
Dr. Phil,
leave.
when my is what
No,
she said.
no.
You can't handle the truth.
Right. Let's get straight into it. Property investment in Australia is bullshit. No one should be using investment properties as a way to supplement their income. It is absolute bullshit. The simple fact of the matter is we were all sold the great idea of the American dream, the Australian dream, whatever the fuck you wanted to call it. All that was purely so that banks had a reason to give you money so they could make money off of you. The simple fact is using property investment as a way to make money off other people is just absolute bullshit. Everybody should be entitled to a place to live, as far as I'm fucking concerned, okay? I don't care if that makes me sound like a communist. Simple fact of the matter is everyone deserves a roof over their head. No one deserves to be out in the cold. No one deserves to be out in the rain. No one deserves to die on the streets. That's just plain fucking simple. Okay? In terms of superannuation, the fact that they're closing the loopholes so that the older generations here in Australia are now taking over... Oh, fuck off, Parallax. They're closing loopholes so that younger generations can't accrue wealth for the older generations. Simple fact of the matter is that here in Australia, the younger generations are going to be propping up the baby boomers. And that's why they're cracking the shits, because our birth rate's stagnating. So there's not going to be enough money to pay the taxes for the pensions that they're going to all be entitled to once they reach the age where they can no longer work. And superannuation is not doing enough. That's why they've gone and increased it from 10% up to, I think it's, no, what was it? 9.5%. Now they've upped it to 10.5% of compulsory contributions. So all of a sudden, employers are now having to add an extra 1.5% to whatever they pay their employees, so that then those employees can invest the funds through superannuation companies, which then invest it into, banking stocks, into whatever the fuck they want, so that then they can try and make it look like, oh, we're making you money so that you can then go ahead and live in life down the track when you can no longer work. Superannuation is not covering the cost of living. You cannot live on what is being put into those super funds for more than probably 5 or 6 years, depending on the current cost of living here in Australia. After that, pretty much everyone's going to wind up living with their kids And God forbid you're in a situation where that just can't happen. Being asset rich benefits nobody aside from the greedy bastards at the top. That's as far as I'm fucking concerned. You have no right to own more than 3 investment properties. Okay? If you were using that as a way of making sure that you don't have to go and take a job, go and earn money, whatever, that's your prerogative, okay? There are other side hustles so that you can do that. Go out and buy assets that actually generate income. Go and buy a business. Go and look for a business that is working well, that all it needs is a good manager that you can slot in, and you can basically set and forget and walk away and watch that bring in money so that you don't have to stress. Go and use your superannuation money for that. Go and set up a self-managed super fund. Go and purchase a business so that it's generating income, so you will actually be able to look after yourself. Yes, I'm aware that rentals generate income, Parallax, and I'm saying that they shouldn't. Not when that income is coming at a cost. Scott. The birth rates in Western countries is plummeting. I'm happy to offer to donate my sperm if that will help anyone. Oh. Damn it, that really threw me off the track. Where was I? Yes, so for God's sakes, people, self-managed super funds, they are the way to go. That way you have complete control over where your money is going, what you are doing with it. It's not being used to line someone else's pockets. And yes, I wholeheartedly agree with David there. No housing should be empty for more than 6 months. But yeah, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is people are using investment properties as a substitute for income. And because of that, only if you can pay child support too, I would need at least $1,500 a month. So what do you do with people that own multiple properties? Take them? No, make them sell them. They still manage to take the benefits of the capital gain as it is. But as far as I'm concerned, if you own multiple properties and a first homeowner is struggling to get into the property market, they have a greater need than someone that has multiple investments. So as far as I'm concerned, yes. And we need to close the loopholes for foreign investors. Because, land being bought up by foreign investors is never beneficial in terms of, look, I'm thinking about the little guys here. I'm thinking about well, I didn't say that. I did say this was going to be a controversial opinion. Forcing them to sell is still taking them, even if they get some money out of them. Yeah, well, guess what? If I don't believe that they're entitled to it when someone else is in a situation where they cannot get into the market, have a roof over their heads that they can call themselves, then yes, fuck it. Okay, I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, they don't have the right to have acquired those assets in the first place. Not in the way that they're being done. Not in the way that the Australian property market is being set up. It is all fucked. Okay, greedy people at the top are managing to take advantage of the system because their mates in government for the last 8 years have been able to create loopholes. So it's just over and over again that the richer are getting richer and the poor people at the bottom are getting screwed over. Okay? That's just the long and the short of it. Seize them from the bourgeoisie for the proletariat. Oh, Jesus, now this really is starting to sound like communism, isn't it? Like China, who just bought a shit ton of acreage in Montana. What the fuck do they need to be in Montana? What's the are there any crops or anything that can be grown in Montana? I'm just purely curious. See you, Dwayne. Yeah, we can't buy property in other countries, but they can buy here. Exactly. Stop franking credits and change the CG or corporate governance rules. Yeah, I can agree with that too. A lot of people are buying a ton in Montana. Makes me wonder what's suddenly in Montana. Set by market forces. Yep. It's supply and demand. So Food, the land grab for food. That's what I was thinking it probably would be. Absolutely, and New Zealand is the same. David G, that's not an answer. When you would have a government program to force rental, you will have fuckery. Yeah, look, that's probably true. What I'm saying is that there should be a limit on. I mean, look, the government imposes asset limits on people that are entitled to the pension and that sort of thing anyway. So as far as I'm concerned, rental assets should not be a substitute for that. Oh, capital gains. Yeah, fair enough. What was that? It's mainly grazing land. Okay, so interesting. So all of a sudden they've bought up a bunch of grazing land in Montana when Australia is restricting the beef exports to China. Interesting. Probably coincidental, maybe. I was liking this government equity thing that New South Wales introduced, but then I found out it's only essentially workers they are including, teachers, nurses, and police. What about me? Yeah, it's complete not a BS. Montana is beautiful and lots of underdeveloped land. A lot of Californians are moving there because of the expense elsewhere. Interesting. Okay. Ton of unused beautiful land. That's all I can think of. Okay. Tax structures are different, which causes many rich to register their exotic cars in Montana. It was said not long ago that Montana will be set to be the food bowl of the US. Let's wait and see, but I think there's something going on there. Capital gains is bullshit too. Yes, it fucking well absolutely is, as is stamp duty. And I tell you what, if they go ahead and bring in succession tax here again, because that was something that Morrison was talking about before he got kicked out. Thank God I don't think that Albanese is going to go down that road. But we got rid of state succession tax back in 2000. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, the state should not be entitled to up to 50% of the value of someone's estate when they die. That's just fucked up. I'm looking up mineral deposits, lots of platinum and copper. Okay, interesting. Californians are moving everywhere and nobody wants us. Now Hayden's getting it. Yeah. Shorten had some good policy. Man, it's very coincidental. They're trying to introduce land tax in New South Wales too. Fuck that. Yeah, we already have land tax. But that only applies to, again, rental properties. So yes, the government's and that's the other reason why I don't think the state government's going to make any sort of move towards limiting rental properties. Investment properties, I should say. Because they get a shit ton in land tax, particularly vacant residential land tax. Here in Victoria, they get every year on the 1st of January, they look at all the properties, work out exactly who's entitled to what. I'm pretty sure I saw something recently about a property where the land tax had been 40 odd K over the last 5 years, so $400,000 for a single property that was worth about $500,000. So that shit adds up, particularly when you don't pay it and then you get bills and interest on top of it and all that sort of shit. It's a pity people bought the lies of liberals. Death tax is bullshit and probably illegal. You get taxed on everything in your estate when you acquire it. Then they tax it again. Fuck them. That's exactly the problem that I have with it, honestly. Pretty much every asset that you buy here as a private individual in Australia, you pay GST on. Aside from exemptions like certain medical devices, certain foods, water, that sort of thing, everything else they charge you a 10% tax on when you acquire it. As far as I'm concerned, they get their cut, okay? Don't you go coming to me and saying, oh, you need to give us so much money during the year. And that's the other reason why income tax really gives me the fucking shits as well. If they did proper tax on on various, we'll call them wealthy individuals, because what did I work it out? To be fair, I think it was about 2012. I sat down and I worked out the gross profits of the top. Oh Jesus, is that legitimate, Crystal? Can you say? I can't open that from here. Can you send me that in Discord? What was it? 2012. I sat down, worked out the top 10. The top 10 companies here in Australia, if we gave them a once-off levy to try and boost the Australian economy, pretty much every person in Australia would have been able to receive $75,000. That is how much bullshit there is. So, TV series Yellowstone is inspiring uber rich to buy Montana land. My Colorado dream has been infected. Former Californians and Texans. Is death tax US estate tax? I would assume so. The rental market in New South Wales has been really skewed by Airbnb. I live in a tourist town. Thank God my rent's secure, so it can be $280 a night plus to that Airbnb place is getting. Yeah, and see, as far as I'm concerned, that is absolute bullshit. That just should not be happening. What's that, CG? Hayden, do you ever do shyster lawyer shit and help people keep their money out of the state's hands? Within ethical boundaries, of course. Keeping it out of the state's hands? Abso-fucking-lutely. Keeping it out of the government's hands? Abso-fucking-lutely. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Hang on. Where's... hopefully I can find one of these that isn't going to copyright strike me. Sydney Morning Herald, Sydney Morning Herald, Sydney Morning Herald, Herald Sun. That's Compass. Screw it. I'll share this one anyway. Okay, this was the approach of one of the richest men in Australia to tax. All credit to Sydney Morning Herald.
What the Four Corners story was trying to say, which you quoted, was that I was evading tax. I have not been evading tax, and I am not evading tax. I pay what I am required to pay. Now, what people don't understand is that there are businesses outside of Australia which have never been historically taxed in Australia. They are nothing to do with Australia. They are businesses that I own in other countries, in the United States of America. Why Australia believes it's entitled to tax that company is beyond my comprehension, but they do. But that has only started from this year.
What the Four Corners program suggested was not that you were evading tax at all, that would have been libelous, but that you were minimising tax.
There's nothing wrong with minimising tax. I don't know anybody who doesn't minimise their tax.
And that you were doing so in ways that were contrary to the spirit of the law.
Oh. Well, I just got through telling you what I thought about that. And what you're saying is exactly what the Four Corners program says. I am not evading tax in any way, shape or form. Now, of course, I am minimising my tax. And if anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax, they want their heads ripped. Because as a government, I can tell you, you're not spending it that well that we should be donating extra.
Anyone upset at the amount of rich people paying in tax should be upset at laws. Yes, and I'm one of those people. I am very upset with the way that the Taxation Acts are written. The Income Assessment Tax Act. Oh, hang on. Why is that? What was I saying? Yes, the Income Tax Assessment Acts and the other tax act. What's the other one? GST, New Good Tax System in 2000. It's a fucking minefield. Okay, even when I was in law school, my tax lecturer said to me, "Everyone knows that the tax laws here in Australia are an absolute cluster." Okay. And no one can be bothered to sit down and straighten it out. It's just they keep tacking bits and pieces on, hoping that it's all going to make sense. So, no, I am very upset with the tax laws, and I very much believe that it is something that needs to be rectified. And I have actually contacted various people and said, look, what can we do about this? And I basically got given the short shift and said, it is what it is. It has been since like 1936 or whatever the fuck it was when the original act was. They're not going to touch it. So, just gives me the absolute shits. I'm currently looking at buying property in some of the mountain states, either Colorado, Idaho, or Montana. Fair enough. Typical liberal rhetoric. Amazon pays all taxes legally by minimizing the taxes every person does. Yep. Imagine what good and housing could have been generated with the gazillions of dollars the US sent to Ukraine in the last bunch of months that disappeared and went to corrupt politicians. Cheeky motherfucker. Kerry Packer, not a good looker, but a good thinker. Yeah, and look, the other thing is, for anyone that's never seen it, Kerry Packer's War, fucking amazing miniseries. It was about him taking on Cricket Australia and basically setting up the Super League. That's not the correct name for it, but I've got it on DVD, and I absolutely love that. Oh shit, now I've gone ahead and lost my spot. Ah, there we go. Not a good looker, but a good thinker. Yes. Oh, G'day, Divinity. How are you? Aren't tax laws everywhere a cluster? Look, there are some countries that get tax laws right. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I personally, look, I'm not saying that I'd want to be the one to sit down and draft up how it is, because you do need to try and make things fair for everybody. As far as I'm concerned, though, if you are making a shit ton of money, your tax needs to be fair. Or better yet, the government needs to stop spending shit on shit that no one cares about and that is not applicable to the country or the people that they are within. Okay? There is a fuck ton of projects the Australian government can stop funding here within the Australian borders, like giving billions of dollars to mates with a company of 8 people. That gives me the absolute shit and right up the wall, okay? We need that. We need the federal ICAC. We need the anti-corruption watchdog in place, and we need it now. Irrevocable trusts have been the uber richest solution to protect their assets. Yes, and whilst irrevocable trusts, we don't use them in the same way, but discretionary and family trusts are something that are used liberally, shall we say. And I don't have any issue with that. I don't have any issues with protecting your assets. I think that there should still be limits on the assets, because after you get to a certain point, once you are comfortable in life, once all your bills are paid, once your house is paid off, once you've got a roof over your head, you can live comfortably. Then it's just numbers on a page, okay? And at that point, all it is about whose dick's bigger. And if that is the reason that a child is sleeping cold out in the winter night tonight, I find that absolutely fucking reprehensible. They could end the homeless, but make it so much more money than housing people. Yeah. News Corp pays $0 if tax in Australia, and under the previous government kept getting handouts. Yep. Huge undertaking. I hope your dreams come true. Yeah, as do I. One day series. I prefer the West Coast, but again, financially impossible. Okay. Flat tax, done. Yeah, flat tax on net profits. No. Flat tax on gross profits, but make it a smaller amount. And then have incentives for working families and that sort of thing. The US does not. Well, doing awesome. How are you? Good to be here. Yeah, can't complain. It's been a wild night, so got to play my controversial opinions video again, so I wasn't expecting to use that tonight. Always wanted to own a ranch in the mountains, and California is too expensive to buy any decent amount of land. Yeah, fair enough. I want the contract for that $25 million flag. Yeah, I would like to see that too. Honestly, working out exactly how it would cost that much. I mean, theoretically, you take a couple of choppers, you fly it up, you drop it down, a few big ass bolts, weld it in, Or better yet, just take down the state flag, or take, it. No, you know what? Better yet, take all 3 flags down, put the poles up outside the Sydney Opera House, and fly them all, because that's still within view of the Harbour Bridge. It would, as far as I'm aware, it would be significantly easier. There wouldn't be any sort of engineering issues that you got to look at, and that way, everyone wins, and for what I would expect to be significantly less. Surely that's not a bad idea. I mean, the Sydney Opera House is iconic as it is. Does it really need to have all the various flags flying from it? If what they're talking about, if the issue is equality between the cultures, take all 3 flags, put them somewhere else, somewhere that is not going to cost $25 million. G'day, Tess. Technically, governments need a low-income mother to balance their budgets. Isn't that terrible when you actually think about that? That's what it boils down to. They need to borrow money from working people in order to fund the bullshit that they do. Fund their studies into viability, whether or not we should be building a particular building in a certain spot, whether or not it would be good to have a outreach program in a specific space. You know what? Don't do the viability study. Get out there, do the outreach program, do some good in the community. If it runs over budget from what you thought, be in a deficit the next year and account for it in the next budget. Trial and error. It's that simple. I won't scare me. I do feel bad about contributing to the stereotype of Californians raising the price in neighboring states, but that's capitalism, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. Flat taxes hurt the poor more unless you have a high tax-free threshold. Yes, as I was saying, that's one of the things that needs to be in place. Just tax capital gains tax at the same rate as income would do a lot, though. Yeah, that's true. They ended up just taking down the New South Wales flag instead of putting up a new flagpole. Oh, so they actually did that. Okay, so basically that was New South Wales copying Victoria, because we basically did that. We decided we were going to take down the Victorian state flag and just fly the Aboriginal flag so that everyone was happy. The $25 million is for the guy that owns the design of that flag. What? You've got to be shitting me. Isn't the Aboriginal flag owned by the Aboriginal nation? How is that? And I mean, if they're the ones vying for equality, my understanding was that it was in regards to engineering and establishing the new flagpole. I'm not sure if that's accurate, David. In Australia, if you default on a housing loan, even if the bank takes it, you still owe for the loan. Yes. If the bank sells it for nothing to a mate, you owe the balance still. Yes. Mortgagee sales for the big banks. I could go on for a few hours about misconduct by the banks. I am currently involved in a couple of litigation matters that I can neither confirm nor deny or give details of. But needless to say, I've seen some shit in relation to all of them. Let me grab my scissors. I'm adding you to my weekly review every week until you hit 10K. I do want to see you succeed. Thank you so much, Divinity. That's really sweet. And I did see the weekly review last week. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it to you in one of the chats. That was hilarious, and thank you so much. I was so honored to actually make it into that reel. I actually find it very interesting because I've seen bits and pieces of, and even Joe the other day when I was on his stream, like he actually already assumed that I was in the LawTube chat. Like he just assumed that I'd been accepted and I was part of it, and everyone, just sort of I'd been ingratiated, and I'm quite humbled and I'm chuffed that I'm getting that little bit of legitimacy in this space. So I'm very appreciative to all my fans, all my viewers. So, I know that some of the content that I put out there isn't to everybody's taste. Let's face it, the Nerdvana videos are just for me, okay? Whoever sticks around for those, that's fine. It's about the only time that I get to do cards or to put together my models, okay? I work, I run my own law firm, I have a 4-year-old toddler, I have a wife who's been in and out of hospital for the last 3 months. This is about me time. admittedly, the law report, sorry, no, not the law report, the law patrol is about getting information out there, answering questions, and being there for you guys as well. Nerdvana is just for me. I'll be perfectly honest. So I'm more than happy to just record that and have it be whatever it is, okay? But in terms of the law stuff, I've got to say I've been absolutely amazed by the reception that I've received. Look, I am still waiting to hear from a few members, but that might just be that I need to reach out myself and stop being a little bit lazy on it. So, but no, look, as I said, Divinity, thank you so much. I hugely appreciate that. That's makes me. You can see the smile on my face. Let's face it. Were you on Scott's stream the other day? Yes, I was. Oh crap! I just realised Crypty's going to kill me. No, I need Discord. For the lodge mods. Copy that and put that in there. YouTube.com. Wait, what was that? I just had some sort of award or something pop up. No idea. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Okay, so put that into the chat. Alrighty. Oh, all right. What can I take out of that then? I'll just take out the bits and pieces. Oh, thank you, T in Tennessee. That's great. Give me a second. I'm just in the other version of YouTube, and I will put that up in a second. Just got to try and find where I can take another 50. No, 35. Discord. I'll take the email out. That's fine. No one needs to see the email. And send. Pin message. Okay, back to this. Where was I? Did you guys like the video already? Yes, please remember, go do the YouTubey things. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. My streaming schedule, although I'm usually between 10 and 1 here, my time, just to make things a little bit messy, you know, I can be pretty much anywhere. So that we don't feel an obligation to each other to make our collective well-being better blows my mind. Yeah. And look, I think that's where you've got to find the balance, because swinging towards either capitalism or communism too far one way is dangerous. Because either way, whichever way you look at the political spectrum, everyone looks at it as left and right, okay? When I was in university, my ethics professor taught me that it's a circle. Either way, whether you go to the left or the right, eventually, if you keep swinging, you're going to wind up right back at the top. And you're going to wind up with dictatorships either side. You're either going to wind up with people like, fuck it. Godwin's Rule. You're going to wind up with Hitler, or you're going to wind up with Stalin, okay? So I do think we need to look after those. We need to look after each other as a society whilst taking into account that we do have our own individual needs and rights. And that's where it needs to be balanced. And I do think that at the moment, society is a little bit too far swung one way, in that we're not looking after each other as a whole. Apparently it was paid for by the federal government before the election. Okay. What? You owe when they take it back. Yeah, so there's a difference between foreclosure and mortgagee sale. So here, specifically in Victoria at least, if there's a mortgagee sale, the bank takes the property, sells it for what is supposed to be best endeavours to get the highest price. If there's a loan still outstanding on that, if there's a balance on it, they chase you down. They will garnish your wages. You will be made bankrupt, which lasts for 7 years. if you're unable to pay, and it's not great. Oh, thanks, Asher. Yeah, you fit in like you've always been here. Great match for the community. Oh, thank you. Yes, we can't walk out of the bank loan on a house. Many people who are homeless are still paying off a home loan, which is a ridiculous state of affairs. And I'm genuinely worried now that the interest rates are starting to go up here in Australia. A lot of people that have been enjoying we'll call it the last decade of prosperity since we rebounded from the GFC, because there's a lot of people out there, like new homeowners, and there's almost an entire generation out there that has never seen a interest rate over 4 or 5%. That's going to hurt when the squeeze comes, because it will. I mean, the banks here are very quick to pass on the entirety of any interest rate rises that the Reserve Bank, so the equivalent of our Federal Reserve, they put out the interest rates on the first Tuesday of every month. The banks never want to reduce their interest rates because that affects their bottom line and their profits. But they almost always pass on a full interest rate rise. And that can be anywhere from, a point basically can be, what was the last one? It went up like $80 a month or something. Let me double check. Interest rate rise Australia. Okay, so when was this? Okay, so this was July 11th. So this was like 2 days ago. They're already expecting the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve Bank of Australia. Fuck, I keep getting them mixed up. They're expecting that they will add another increase in August, which will make it that it'll go up. That in total it will have went up by 0.75%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you take into account that will add almost $991 to the average mortgage, what is that on? That's how much is that on? So if you've got a mortgage of $615,000, which is conservative if you're anywhere near Melbourne or Sydney, that's an extra $1,000 a year that you have to pay on your mortgage. That's rough, particularly when wage increase is nowhere near that. So there it is. Teen Tennessee. Thank you for the super sticker. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Even Nick Riccardi will tell you Lord Tube is gay. Yeah, but Nick says a lot of things are gay. And let's face it, I do watch His Holiness religiously. But it is what it is. Some people like the moniker, some people don't. I get that there's various people that say that they don't want to be part of it or any of that sort of shit. But for those of us that are very small, having collective opinions or safety in numbers is basically what I'm saying, at least for the small guys anyway. Scott says, I hereby dub an official member of History Tube. Thank you, Scott. I very much appreciate it. And I bow down to the founding member. And I have no idea where the sub-founding member, where the fuck he is. I'm assuming he's asleep on his couch. Remember to switch to live chat so you don't miss the messages. Yeah. History Tube it is. You should sign up to Stream Elements and add the bot to the stream. I did have a stream bot in the stream. It was basically it was cracking the shits at people. I changed all the settings and everything, but it was just like putting people in timeout for using words that I hadn't put into the proper algorithms and all that sort of thing. So there is Lore Tube, History Tube. Can we get an Oz Tube? I kind of feel like Mad Cool Mofo probably is the person to talk to about that, because he's sort of the Aussie that's dealing with external things. I'd be more than happy to be a part of OzTube. Certainly make it easy to have any sort of convention. I mean, I'm still waiting for the Vegas trip for LawTube. What does that mean? Is it an add-on? Yes, it is. So if you do your streaming, so see all the interesting little stuff that I've got around here. I actually run my program through Streamlabs, and then I use it as a virtual webcam to send off to StreamYard. Okay. Now it does mean that there's this little bit of a delay, which I'm still trying to fix. So if you really look hard, you'll notice my voice doesn't match my lips specifically. I'm still trying to work that out. But basically, it's a bot that will go through, would act as a moderator. It will send out timed messages to remind people to like, subscribe, and it will actually pick up on language. It will pick up on. So I had it set specifically for the C-bomb and for wanker, just because I don't particularly like that word, and I know that now the chat's going to be full of it, but fuck it. And so basically, it's this. I started using it before I had any mods in the chat, basically. And so now it's just that I've been lazy to actually put the posts and messages up myself. So I need to get to that. But yes, if you can afford to have Streamlabs Prime or Premium or whatever they want to call it, it can be a good place to start, Divinity. Hard to find the balance at the right moment, but we can try. Yeah, that's all I think we can do is try and find the balance. Communities used to look after each other. You cultivated local communities, and they would come together to help someone in need. Government welfare has blown that out. I don't necessarily think. I'm not sure that I agree with you entirely on that, Parallax. I'm not blaming government welfare for that. I am blaming a change in society for that. There used to be a time when you would know who your neighbors were. You would knock on the door. You would borrow a cup of sugar. Specifically on Australia Day, you might set up the barbie. You might invite someone over for a snag, all that sort of stuff. That has gone by the wayside because people have lost trust in each other. I would love to be in a position to say, no, you know what? I know everyone on my street. I trust everyone on my street. I'm more than happy to engage with everyone on my street. I know the guys that live on that side of me. Never really had anything to do with the guys that live on that side of me. Beyond that, I know nobody. I think we forget people are caught up struggling their own, and they may need a kind word or a simple smile. So be careful to too harshly or at all. Exactly. And that's my whole thing about paying it forward. If you're in a position where you can help someone altruistically, do it. It makes the world a little bit of a better place, and hopefully it will combat that whole thing about society as a whole is no longer the kind, generous place that it used to be. And I'm not saying that it particularly was at the time. I'm saying we've just gotten that much worse. Yeah, but on the other hand, you get anything that's left over when the bank sells. Yes, but you would expect that. I remember when interest rates in Australia got to 18.5, credit cards were 22. Yeah, exactly. Completely fucked up. Where are we? We should go full-blown capitalist like the Ferengi. I don't think I've got the ears for the earrings and stuff, honestly. And I mean, look, my teeth are bad, but not that bad that I need to get them filed down. What about the 10 billion in top rate tax cuts coming in? That should be put in the bin. Yeah, look, I'm probably not going to disagree with you on that. I mean, I've got to walk a fine line with that as well, because I mean, technically, my business is run under a company, so I put it out there blatantly. I have biases on a lot of issues, one way or the other, and where I sit on a specific topic may change daily depending on what sort of assistance my business is getting, or how my employees are going to be treated under certain things. So, a lot of people are overextended. Never thought about the interest rates rising. Luckily for the majority of them, the value of their home and land has increased a lot, so they can sell and not be in debt. No, that's true. But at the same time, why should it be necessary for them to have to sell? I mean, if it's their home, that's different. If it's an investment property, yes, as far as I'm concerned, hike the interest rates on the investment rate loans. I'm more than happy for them to be paying that, as long as they don't pass that on to their renters and try and squeeze money out of them. Oh, shit, that's where I'm at. My house goes live on the market this Saturday. Oh, Asher, I'm really sorry to hear that. Anything else? There's a problem circles back. He names the one I don't watch. I'll have to take your word for that. Yeah, but Nick says a lot of things are gay. I'm not wrong, am I? Hopefully you have enough equity to set yourself up somewhere else. Yeah, absolutely. LawTube is fine as a loose collection of individuals. The problem is when it becomes official, then you have situations like last week where members of LawTube have to address actions of a member. Yeah, and look, I think that was the problem. I think that the problem is that it became that little bit too official, and people, as you said, were required to try and rein someone in. I do like Nick's view on that. I personally don't want to feel like I'm beholden to anybody either. I just think it's like, how do I put this? Okay, so every year there is a forum here in Melbourne for boutique law firm owners, so managing partners of law firms that get together, discuss things that are affecting the industry as a whole, particularly at our level, what's involved. Now that itself is that grouping actually has ties to it, and we're all members of that specific group. But I'm not beholden to any of those people. I'm proud to call myself part of that membership, but it has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not those people have any sort of impact on my life. Yes, I'm happy to pass on information. I'm happy to have vibrant discussions. I'm happy to even give referrals, pass on information that may be beneficial where it's obviously not privileged or client information, but that's more of what I would expect LawTube to be, is that you're recognized as having a certain expertise in an area and that you're worth talking to, but you're not beholden to anyone else. So Emily made fetch happen on LawTube specifically because Nick didn't like it. The internet is good like that. Tell us no, we dare you. Sync's almost perfect. Oh, really? Excellent. Sound and visuals pretty much dead on. Okay, lovely. Emily is how I discovered all of the LawTubers. So happy I found her. Fair enough. I switched from Streamlabs OBS to OBS Stream Elements. Streamlabs is too resource hungry. So Stream Elements a separate one again. Because Kiwi's been trying to get me to move over to vMix, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm happy with it. It's not as user-friendly. It took me a second to realize where you put the E on mate. Stream Elements is free. Okay, I might have to have a look. Go outside and meet your neighbors, Hayden, don't be a stranger. No, look, and that's just it. The trouble is that the way that things have become, I don't think they'd be receptive. I'm more than happy to go and go out and knock on the door and introduce myself. But I don't know that they'd be receptive of meeting me. That's the problem. And that's the state that our society is in at the moment. But yes, you know what? Maybe I'm the one that needs to have a cup of concrete, ball up, go out there, extend the olive branch, and see what comes of it. You knew who your neighbours were because you went to the same places, you attended the same church. Sure, societal changes have affected that, but when you had a problem, you looked to your local first. Yes. I love Emily, and you got the same reason. You respect everyone else regardless if you agree with them or not. The animosity so many others' feeling is overwhelming to be around all the time. Yeah, and look, it's the same thing that I've always said. And look, when I was on Joe's stream the other night, I'm going to go there because let's face it, Kiwi's not here to restrain me. So I copped a lot of crap because I jumped on Joe's stream, Kurt jumped in, and because I wasn't really willing to tear him to shreds, I think there were 50 or so people in that stream that was telling everyone to come and unsubscribe from me. Kiwi actually got in there and started throwing fists. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. Or mince words. I am not going to mince words about it. But I still stand by what I said. He did something reprehensible. It shouldn't have happened. But rehabilitation is important. Okay, that's the whole point. That is what I believe a good chunk of our justice system is all about. Rehabilitating people. Sure, he goes and does anything else stupid. Give him enough fucking rope that he hangs himself, okay? I will always take the moral high ground. That is always what I will do, because that is who I am. I'm not going to get dragged into something. I'm going to let someone fuck themselves over. You get one chance with me, okay? You get one chance. And he's wasted his. And I'm willing to bet that's probably the last that I'll ever hear from him as well. Now your first stop is the Fed government. Dang, start of the day must begin already. It's been great. Thanks, Lord Troll. Have a great rest of the stream. See you, Asher. Have a good day. The problem started when you needed 2 incomes to live. Exactly. The way that things have been turned out, we grew as a society where a sole income provider, as bad as it sounds, the male breadwinner was the one that brought in the money. Mum was able to stay at home, look after the kids. So childcare wasn't as expensive, or at least if you had the in-laws around, you could palm the kids off so that you could do babysitting and all that sort of thing. Just the way that the current society is. I mean, I'm 2-3 hours away from my family. My wife is 2 hours away from hers, and that's not just her. That's not just her parents. That's her siblings. That's my siblings. With that spread out, that I don't actually know who I would call if there was an emergency. If something happened to myself and Lady Law Patrol, and I needed someone to look after my daughter, I have no idea who the fuck I would call. Actually, no, that's not true. I'd probably call one of my best friends. So he's one of the few people that I can depend on, thankfully. Why not extend the loan? A lot of the time, the banks won't, honestly. Elizabeth Warren actually wrote a book about that before she went nuts called The 2-Income Trap. Talked about how families used to subsist on one income, and if there was a problem, the other person could step in to take over. Yep. Boutique law firm sounds almost as gay as LawTube. Fuck you, Parallax. I didn't come up with it. It's what they call it because my firm is at a certain level. So I'm not considered a small law firm. I'm considered a boutique firm because I specialize in particular areas, and I'm not one of those people that already has 100 employees. That's when you move into your small, then you go up to your mid-size, and you go to your national firms. So I didn't come up with it. I don't particularly like it. I'm inclined to agree with you, but I can't openly say that. What was that? But you skipped the line where I said that you were better than LawTube. You don't deserve to be stuck in the group with us. I must have actually skipped over that, Cool Frog. Sorry, the chat must have done that thing where it jumps. I did legitimately miss that. LawTube is gay. You're better than that. Thank you, Cool Frog. That's hugely appreciated. Don't know if I strictly agree with you, but it's hugely appreciated. There's plenty of people in LawTube there's plenty of people in the group that I look up to, and there are a number of them that I see as mentors. Whether or not I take everything that they take on board, whether I take on board everything that they pass on to me is another thing. But, that's just the way that it is. Let's face it, LawTube only grew off of JD and AH. Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't think that just because the trial's gone that's going to be the end of it. I think that there is... it's just a nickname, not a real organization. And I think the trouble is that a lot of people were treating it as a real organization rather than a LawTube started at Rittenhouse. Okay, fair enough. I'm using both StreamYard and Streamlabs, so that's why there's that very slight delay. I can help you if you want. Drop me a DM in Discord. Fair enough. Hard to meet the new neighbors. Yeah. Use the kid to meet new people. Kids make it a lot simpler. I'm waiting for her to get slightly older, because I'm bound to make friends when she is wanting to do play dates and all that sort of thing, or at least I'm hoping to anyway. I mean, I've got 1 or 2 friends. I've always been like that, where I have 1 or 2 people that I'm very close to that I would probably take a bullet for if need be. But I'm not going to lie, I've been fucked over in friendships quite a lot over the years, so I am very, very careful with who I associate with. So I still push my coin for Flock of Legals. First rule of History Tube, don't talk about History Tube unless my name is mentioned in the most wonderful light possible. Second rule, I'm open to ideas. Oh. First rule of History Tube, don't talk about History Tube unless Scott is praised as if he's the second coming. Second rule of History Tube. Second rule of History Tube. Try not to mention Hitler. Actually, no, that's not true because I love World War II documentaries. My uterus says feminists ruined everything. One income family life sounds wonderful. Oh, the cost of babysitting in Australia. Yeah, so for us, we've got our daughter in daycare 5 days a week. Love the centre. Love that she's in the 3-year-old kinder program. So she is smart as shit. She keeps astounding both her mother and me. So I love the way that they're looking after her and that sort of thing. But it's costing us more than a week's rent to have her in daycare. It is not cheap. Banks have incentives to default loans. Yes, they absolutely do. Or a boutique law firm. What? I'm a fucking... What? I'm a ghost now? Or is it just you're saying boo because you can? Boutique is unique. That stream you were in was nothing in terms of an angry chat. You did the best thing by not feeding the trolls. You'll probably go through your own drama sagas when your channel gets big. I'm very much hoping that I don't go through my own drama. Let's face it. I probably could have started some of my own by now. I'm just not that kind of person. I try and avoid it like the plague. Attorney Tom looks up to everyone. That was good. You have your own mind. Yep. The problem is that some of the members of LawTube wanted to make it an organization. Yeah. Yep. Quality is more important than quality. Oh, Jesus, CG. History Tube is old news. Sorry, Scott. You like World War II stuff? Watch Band of Brothers Pacific. Of course I have. Had Band of Brothers on Blu-ray. My God, that went missing around the time that I moved out with I left a share house. Scott is coming again, the second coming. Does boutique firm also mean that you can sell dresses and hats to your lady clients? Fuck no. I'm not doing that. Enough on my plate without worrying about that. Men should stay at home and let women work. Hey, I would happily, okay? Lady Law Patrol is amazingly intelligent. She's amazingly brilliant at what she does. She works a good 50-hour week, okay? She works a 50-hour week. I work probably 45-hour week. On a trial week, I'm working 50 hours as well. We have our little girl. We work hard for what we have, and even at our stage at the moment, at various bits of time, it does not feel like enough. So I can only imagine what it's like for other people out there. At least I have the ability because I'm working for myself. I can sort of come and go from the office as I need to. If something happens at daycare, I can go and look after my little girl. If I need to work from home so that when she's sick, that's fine. I can do that. Excuse me. But anyway. What else we got there? Boo earns. Could you maybe get help from a younger relative who needs pocket money or an au pair? I would have liked to, but as I said, my younger siblings. So there's 16 and 18 years between myself and my younger siblings. They're the closest ones that would potentially be able to. They're still 3 hours away. So we do have a babysitter that does some work for us occasionally. Obviously, with the bug and everything, and what's been going on with the wife, haven't been able to take her up on that as much. So, it hasn't been easy, but you work with what you can. Kids are smart, Hayden. I know since I watched mine grow up, and they are smart. My granddaughter's smarter than the previous generation. Did something happen between Hayden and Uncivil Law? No, absolutely not. Nothing happened between me and Kurt. Nothing like that. Yeah, just general fuckery. Yeah, no. I attracted some trolls in Joe's chat the other day because I wasn't willing to. Basically, because I suggested that we take the moral high road and let Kurt hang himself with his own rope if he does anything more. I wasn't part of anything that really happened, as far as I'm concerned. He's done everything to himself, okay? And, basically, I see no reason to keep flogging the dead horse. Everyone has seen what happened. Do I think that certain other actions need to be taken? Yes. Do I think the rest of us need to stay out of it? Yes. But anyway. In Canada, we're trying to get a universal daycare across all of Canada. Right. 2-income families have tax penalties similar to the US. Well, I don't know if there's tax penalties specifically the way that it's set up in the US, but I mean, both individuals in the household pay income tax. So, presumably, au pair is a decent option. Need to afford it. Old news, took me a second to get that. Running numbers usually shows that the second income is taxed at the higher rate and expenses nullify the second income. Yeah, that's the unfortunate side of it. So, I would not be so committed with my animals. I'd fly over and be an au pair for an internship. Yeah, well, no, look, it's one of those things where I would happily have someone here. But I've never really looked into how any of that works, so... no, I don't think everyone is taxed individually. No joint tax like America. At least I don't think so. No. So we don't have joint tax. So I know that filing tax returns jointly for marriages and that sort of thing, we don't do that. Everyone in Australia files their own individual tax. So you got your individual income tax returns, you got trust tax returns that need to be done every year, and you got your corporate tax returns. So companies, trusts, individuals, everyone files their own tax return unless you make under the income tax threshold, which is roughly the I don't know if it's gone up in the last year or so, but it's around the 18,000 mark. So I've been avoiding all the drama. I come to watch law on the channels. Yeah, no, fair enough. And like I said, that's why I try and stay the fuck out of it. I was on that stream purely because I wanted to talk to Joe. Okay. Yes, Joe made the mistake of thinking that I was in the LawTube chat, so he put out a general invite. So, it was unexpected what happened. Just had to deal with it as it came. One price for daycares, but that could be a good thing, I hope. Yeah, fingers crossed. Au pair would be cheaper than daycare. Do the maths, you can get someone from overseas, maybe $400 a week, especially if you give them room and board. Australia's got a much better tax structure than the US based on what you've said. I'm clueless. Okay. It sounds like it's as expensive like in Switzerland. No, fair enough. Oh, geez. I'm really going to have to change the title of this stream. I didn't even get to any of the hopeless hoodlums and unlawful shit that I was going to cover. School is technically daycare. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, she's still... she's another year and a bit away from. So actually, we can probably make it work for another year until she goes into preparatory, pre-kinder, whatever you want to call it at school. If we have another kid, then we'll probably definitely be looking at it. So I thought the title was referring to you, smartass. No, I had yeah, to unlawful shit. All right, screw it. I've got some time, so I will still bring up some of the articles because some of them were quite funny. No, I'll close that. Don't need to worry about that. Don't know how old some of these ones from the Huffington Post are, but I just tried to find as many funny ones as I could as well. All right, so I'll cover some of the more, we'll call them the dark ones, and then we'll get into some of the funny ones. Rebecca Louise Burden, 47, pleads guilty to attempted suffocation murder of her unwell father. A Brisbane woman says she wishes every day she did not attempt to suffocate her elderly, unwell father in a nursing home after he asked her to help end his life. Oh, okay, that was not where I thought that was going. Rebecca Louise Burden, 47, on Tuesday pled guilty in the Brisbane Supreme Court for the attempted murder of her 68-year-old dad in September 2020. The court heard her with severe Alzheimer's. During a visit during the end of the bug restrictions, Mr. Burden asked his daughter to help him leave and said, "Please just kill me." So she used a pillow and began suffocating him. But the Brighton mother of two stopped when he began kicking out, and she immediately informed nurses what she had done. She also waited at the facility for police to arrive and assisted them with her arrest. Miss Burden was later charged with her father's attempted murder, with prosecutors on Tuesday noting the man's impaired cognitive state. It will be another 2 weeks before she learns whether she'll be spending time behind bars, with Justice Soraya Ryan considering sentencing submissions ahead of a July 22 decision. Oh, David's off. See ya. The Supreme Court heard that the nursing home incident kicked off a turbulent 2 years for which Miss Burden's life was upended, including losing custody of her youngest son. She's also been prevented from having contact with her father since the incident. Miss Burden read a statement in the court when she asked Justice Ryan for a second chance, saying she was a good person who made a grave mistake. "I love my father. He is my best friend, and we've always been there for each other. We included each other in our lives and supported each other always. During the time together that day, there was a lapse of judgment on my part, and it cost me dearly." She said she took full responsibility for her actions. "Every day I wish it had never happened, and I hope that this was just a horrible, horrible nightmare, but it isn't. It is my life. From the moment I wake in the morning to when I go to sleep at night, it consumes my thoughts. If I could take it back, I would." Miss Burden was granted bail, but was directed that she not drink alcohol, and she needed to abide by a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. That's pretty rough for what's going on. Yeah, I think the trouble here is that he had cognitive impairment. So even if he wanted to end his life at the time, that's why you got to have enduring powers of attorney, people. Honestly, she could have made that decision if necessary under a medical appointment decision maker. I mean, look, he wasn't to the point where he actually needed to end his life, but anyway. Does Australia have its own version of the Killdozer? I don't believe so, but I will have a look. What was that? So part of the reason for the low birth rate in Australia is because of the expense of raising kids, or is the Me Too thing so big that men are afraid to date women? Both. It's a combination. From the people that I've spoken to, which, as I said before, is limited, but quality over quantity. Like the cost of raising a kid, right up until they get into, so from birth through to 18, it's roughly, I think at last count that I looked, and this was before we had our daughter, was $1 million to get them through the first 18 years. So it's not cheap. Well, this got dark as fuck. Yeah, well, like I said, I was going to get through the dark stuff first. Many married people don't want children for many reasons. That is true. If the father is actually suffering, I'd let her off. She seems to have suffered enough. It will be interesting to see the outcome of this one. I'm not going to lie. I don't think the issue is men being afraid to date women because of Me Too. Look, I can understand where you're coming from, Lauren, but I have anecdotal evidence that does suggest that there are at least a few instances of men being concerned about that. Like I know people that have stopped using, dating websites, Tinder, that sort of thing, because of that. It's not right now, at least. Some of it is definitely not wanting to lose your stuff that you've worked if you get a divorce. On average, Australians get married later than Americans. Most people want to buy a first home before having kids too. Yes, so you're waiting till your late 20s before you get married, early 30s to buy a house at the earliest, so you're not even thinking about kids until mid-30s. By that time, you can't have a big family. Yeah, unless you have significant family assistance. having 2 or more kids is difficult. It just is. Oops, scared off at least 3 people. All right, let's get into some of the more stupid shit that the criminals have been doing. Lauren Cool, that's what a prenup's for. Unfortunately, the stripper case here in Australia has basically meant that prenups may or may not be worth the paper that they're written on. That was a good 10 years ago. But actually, you know what? That's a good case for me to cover. Thief films own service station robbery at Harristown in Toowoomba. Police have released CCTV footage of an armed robber at a service station in regional Queensland for a public appeal for assistance. At 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 10, the footage captures the young man with a knife entering the service station at Harristown in Toowoomba. The man threatens the service station attendant with a yellow kitchen knife, which he extended underneath the protective perspex shield towards the employee. His knife-wielding hand was clad in a bright red glove that appears to be, while he appears to be filming the robbery with an upright phone held in his hand. What a wank. Surveillance footage shows the attendant placing the cash on top of the box of Kit Kats close to the man who then grabs the notes with his gloved hand. As he snatches the last of the notes, the other hand he attempts to walk out of the St. James Service Street the James Street Service Station. The young man finds the doors won't open for him. He pushed his whole weight against the doors, kicking them twice before rushing towards the rear of the shop and out of the view of the surveillance camera. When he runs back into frame, the automatic doors open and he makes a hasty exit. Timestamp of the footage shows the robbery took about 5 minutes in total with no one being injured. The man ran out of the service station towards the shopping centre car park, according to Queensland Police. Police believe the man between 17 and 21 years old with a fair complexion. He was seen wearing a navy hoodie, grey track pants and white runners. Police are appealing for information from anyone who may have seen the offender either before or after the incident. Please cover that one. I'm not familiar with the stripper case. Yeah, no, fair enough. In short, really rich guy decided to marry a stripper, got a prenup. She wound up fighting it, basically, and she wound up with a lot more than what the prenup entitled her to. We are a fairly immigration-friendly country for those with skills, anyway. Yep. Wait, what did I miss? What did I miss in the chat? Were we talking about immigration policy? Science says 35 is when women slow down on producing eggs, so you may have to get 1 or 2 before there's nothing left if you're lucky. Loosen up those immigration policies if you guys need to sustain the population. Exploding populations of developing nations that will be migrating around the world in the next few decades. I have no issues with immigration, okay? I have no issues with people coming to Australia. I have a little bit of an issue with multiculturalism. I'm more than happy for people to bring their cultures here. I'm not happy for people to isolate in their own clusters and not ingratiate themselves into Australian society. What I prefer is multi-ethnic. So unfortunately, this is one of the few times that I will ever agree with Pauline Hanson, because I do think she's a racist and a bigot, but that's not the point. That's entirely my own opinion, by the way, Pauline. Don't go coming after me. It's not like you've been called worse. Let's put it that way. I would be happier with people coming here, learning our ways and ingratiating themselves and benefiting the country. It's when you find these small pockets where people isolate themselves, don't necessarily learn the language of the land, the laws of the land. Oh shit, got to do laws of the land too. That you get issues. Like in the area where I am, we've had a lot of immigration from certain South African countries. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue is with them taking the mentality that they learned in those countries and taking that to commit break-ins and things like that. Now, that's not me being racist. That's recorded fact from police reports and shit. But, you know, anyway. A lot of American men tell me that they are afraid of asking women out because they don't want to be accused of harassment, stalking, rape, etc. They are scared. I can't say I'm shocked by that. Prenuptial agreement tends to scare someone off. I required a prenup way back when I was a gorgeous thing. Wait. You required the prenup? Fair enough. Sounds like you have met some weird people. Of course he has. I mean, at least virtually, he's met me and Kiwi. I have a problem with businesses taking advantage of immigrants and people on work visas and not paying them, treating them right. Then they try and lower conditions for everyone. Yep. Damn, didn't expect to hear such a base take. Weren't you the one that said when I put up the unpopular opinions video that I was going full based? An interesting thing about Pauline Hanson was her inaugural speech where she said we need to be careful with China. I think she was a little more coarse than that. Yep. But here we are talking about it, unfortunately. Might get you on that alt-right list, lol. No, look, I will happily admit I flip-flop with my policies, okay? There are certain things that I'm alt-right about. There's certain things that I am left-leaning about. Oh, fuck off, Parallax. Gateway to the alt-right. Yes, people who come live need to ingratiate with our country's laws and people. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there's specifically anything wrong with that. I'm more than happy for them to bring aspects of their culture to us and for people to be able to learn and mix those cultures with our own. I just don't want them forcing their cultures on us. And I think that they should be the ones, if they're coming here, they need to be learning about our culture. Yes, I required a prenup. Family was wealthy, so it was ingrained in my head to require it. Then the step thing ended up destroying things. Dad knew how to pick psychos. Oh, sorry to hear that, Tweety. There's a whole bunch of shooting things. Okay, let's go with that one. Share screen. Drunk driver loses license after crashing at Adelaide golf course. A young woman has lost her license and will confront court after allegedly crashing her car at the North Adelaide Golf Club while drink driving on early Monday. The 23-year-old driver reportedly took a wrong turn into the driveway of the golf course on Strangeways Terrace and subsequently crashed into a bollard at about 4:30 a.m. The Parafield Gardens woman was allegedly intoxicated but failed to comply with the breath analysis test. She was taken to the Royal Adelaide Hospital instead to have a blood sample taken. The driver was reported for failing to comply with the breath analysis, drink driving without due care. Driving without due care, and breaching the conditions of a probationary license. The woman has lost her license for 12 months and her car has been impounded for 28 days. Given the state of that car, oh Jesus, and there's a baby thing on the back as well. See that? Fucking sun visor. Jesus Christ. She'll be summoned to appear in court at a later date. Neither the woman nor her male passenger were injured as a result of the incident. I don't know that strictly that car would be going anywhere after 28 days anyway. So, alright, where was the... Where's the age articles? Oh no, I covered the China one, so that's fine. Man shot dead in Fitzroy. Alright, so I'm going to earn my credentials from HistoryTube, and I'm going to go back to 2016 to look at some of the funniest criminal matters that have taken place. So this one was posted by the Huffington Post in Canada on September 6, 2016. Can we blame Carrie Underwood for this? Oh, sorry. Carmen Chambly charged with arson after allegedly torching a car she thought was her boyfriend's. In an incident that reminds us of the country star's song "Before He Cheats," a woman in Florida has been charged after allegedly setting fire to a car she thought belonged to her ex-boyfriend. Chambly, 19, faces second-degree arson charges after the police at Clearwater say she torched the white car on August 28, according to the Tampa Bay Times. She told police she thought the car was her former ex-boyfriend's. Instead, it belonged to Thomas Jennings, who told WFTS his roommate woke him in the morning to let him know his vehicle was on fire. He checked the surveillance camera footage around his home and saw a woman heading over to his sedan, lighting the trunk on fire and even flamming the flames. I have no idea who she is. I've never seen her in my life. Fire investigators told WFTS a flaming rag was thrown in the gas tank and that the suspect was carrying some flammable liquid in a beach bag. Clearwater Police Department posted a video on Saturday showing a woman they say is Chambly feeding the flames. Pinella County inmate records show she was awaiting trial and being held on $10,000 bail. This was August 20. Hang on, are these all from August? How are none of these more recent? They all seem to be from roughly August 2016. But I think that's just the webpage that I went to that had the funny ones that hasn't been updated in a long time. Armed robbers locked in after holding up a New Jersey cell phone store. The manager of a cell phone store in New Jersey had to think quick when the two men came in. A recent robbery took a lot longer than the thieves were expecting. Two armed men held up a Boost mobile store in Patterson, New Jersey last Wednesday, but instead of quickly escaping with the phones and cash, they got locked inside instead. Store manager Tommy Torres had to think quickly when the two burst in with a gun. He told them to take what they wanted, but while they were busy, he ran through a back door into another business. I gotta go, I gotta live, he told CBS 2. Torres ran through the travel agency next door and brought down the front gate, according to the outlets. In surveillance video of the incident, someone outside the mobile phone store is seen pulling down the gate there too. The robbers soon realized they were trapped and tried all sorts of tactics to escape. One of the thieves is seen on the security camera lifting the ceiling tiles. The two also tried using a fire extinguisher to get through to the basement. The surveillance footage even shows one of them pleading with people gathered outside. Let me out. Yeah, come on. Cell phone video obtained by NBC4 showed the crowd laughing and staring at the men. I can't let you out of there, one woman yelled back. They eventually managed to escape, but while this may have been seemed like a happy ending for Torres and the police, the men eventually found a way out. The store manager told News 12 the thieves used tools to tear down a barred window and escape. He also told the Record and Patterson Press he called the police many times saying the robbers were armed, but the police said that they only received 3 or 4 calls and no one mentioned a gun until 19 minutes after the first one. As soon as there was a mention of a weapon, the response was immediate. Oh God, it's like that joke. Old guy wakes up in the middle of the night, sees the light on in his garage, and hears people rumbling around and moving around in there. So he calls the cops, and he says, "Look, I think there's someone in my garage stealing all my stuff." Police officer says, "Oh well, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any officers available. We'll send someone out in the morning." So the old guy hangs up the phone, looks out the back, sees that they're taking some very expensive stuff. So he calls back and he says, "Okay, you don't have to worry about coming around tomorrow. I've shot them. They're dead. It's all taken care of." 2 minutes later, the place is surrounded by police. The two gentlemen in the shed are arrested, and the cops turns to the old man and says, "I thought you said that you'd shot them and they were dead." And the old guy goes, "And I thought you said there were no police available." Alleged Vancouver van thief takes coffee break outside the police station. This one's from 2015. Sometimes you should just wait for your coffee break. Vancouver police said a man drove away in a delivery van that had been left parked with the keys inside around 6 a.m. on Monday on Robson Street near Homer. A few minutes later, a few police officers who had heard about the alleged theft saw the same vehicle cruising by the police station on Campbell Street, said a news release. The cops watched as the driver parked and casually strolled into a nearby coffee shop. The officers followed him inside and after a brief struggle arrested the man. It does not appear either mental health or drugs were a factor in the incident. Brian Ross Phillips, 55, has been charged with theft of a motor vehicle and taking a motor vehicle without the owner's consent. The van and its cargo were safely returned to the grateful delivery driver. Teen asks bystander to hold bloody bag of cash at crash site. A British Columbia teen reportedly asked a random bystander to hold a bag of cash with $5,000 in it after he tried to flee the scene of a hit-and-run accident. On Monday afternoon in Surrey, the teenager crashed his vehicle into one driven by an 85-year-old driver and quickly fled, reported the Surrey leader. He left the senior bleeding at the scene. Two young men heard the crash and chased the teen, eventually bringing him back to the crash site. According to a witness, that's when the teen grabbed the money from his car, asked a woman to hold it, and requested her number so he could retrieve the cash later. The woman agreed at first, but the other bystanders convinced her it was a bad idea. Really? It took other bystanders to convince you that it's a bad idea to take money from someone that's just been in an accident? Police recovered the bag of money as well as another bag with a small amount of marijuana and 5 different cell phones. The senior was treated for non-life-threatening injuries in the hospital. By handing over a bloody bag containing money and drugs, not only are you not doing any good, you're also looking to putting yourself in a whole lot of trouble as well. He says the teen had since been released, but will likely face several driving and drug-related charges. Yes, Tweety, you very much misheard that. Or did I misread it? It's 2:45, I have no idea. He says the teen has since been released, but will likely face several driving and drug-related charges. Parquet commended the Good Samaritans and suggested they consider policing as a career. Yes, because common sense is something that is absolutely desperate when you're a police officer. Okay, top 10 stupidest the top 10 world's dumbest criminals. This should be all right. How long ago was this updated? I think this was updated earlier this year. Oh god, the guy in the Spider-Man costume's on here. This will be good. Albert Bailey, one of the stupid criminals. There is no doubt that this criminal, Albert Bailey, is one of the dumbest criminals. This man and his partner planned to accomplish a mission that was for a bank robbery. In this case, it seems that it didn't go to plan or anything, or hadn't done anything steal before, even for an ice cream. Here comes the funniest moment. These two robbers called the bank before they entered to let them know that they were coming to rob it. I mean, what could be funnier than the incident where all the bank employees know that the robber is on the way and they have enough time to call the cops? The incident took place in Connecticut, and according to the thieves, they warned the bank, so the bank got threatened and collected the money for the two robbers in advance. What a sensible method for these two talented robbers. After a few minutes, Bailey sent his partner into the bank with a note to tell them that they were the same robbers who just called. Later, the police handled the situation, probably by giving them some Play-Doh to play with. And Bailey with his partner... Yeah. All right. Darren Kimpton. Burglar found the perfect house for robbery. The man named Darren Kimpton, who is from Abington, Northampton, entered a house at night that he had already burgled earlier that night. So there were police officers for investigation purposes there at the very same time that he broke in the second time. Holy shit. Of course, he tried to run immediately, but that was not easy. He was caught on the spot. The burglary was unsuccessful, and for the first time, from that time, he comes as one of the world's dumbest criminals. Before entering the police... What? Who wrote this? He tried to invade another house, but was unsuccessful, leaving bloody marks on the windows. So the cops easily linked him to that case as well. Yeah, I'm going to be there in 5 minutes to rob the place. Go ahead and get the money ready. Oh my god, what? Have the US... heat, is the water, is it something in the elk? Somehow the people lose brain cells there. Careful, Kripke. Gas fumes are more dangerous than the gas itself. Robber hands over his gun instead of the bag. Oh, God. This one comes from one of the world's funniest criminals, probably due to being less present at the time of the robbery. This dumb man entered a bank and then he threatened the target with a real gun. The robber was with a real gun and a bag in his hand. The low-minded person told the target to fill up the bag with £700,000 in cash. Instead of giving him the bag, the guy handed over the gun instead, and probably because he was under pressure, and robbing a bank out a blank is not easy as eating cake. The stressful situation made this mistake. After a few seconds, the robber realized his mistake, but by then it was too late for him. Unlike the robber, the worker was in full peace of mind and took full advantage of the situation by pointing the gun straight at the robber's face. Look, I'm inclined to believe so, CG, but it's still fucking hilarious. I mean, look, it could well just be that it's someone that has English as their second language. So, you know. I don't know. If you know for sure the police response rate is slow as fuck and you know you can get there and out faster, then maybe it's an okay idea. No, I can't agree with you on it, Crystal. I honestly can't. It reeks of stupid to me. One of the most important parts of doing a robbery is to hide your real identity or real face and go ahead with a fake look that no one can identify. This man is one of the world's dumbest criminals who took help of a fake identity but didn't use it wisely. He needed a good disguise so no one doubted his identity, but Dennis Hawkins seemed weak in hiding his real face and picked up a blonde wig, fake breasts, and clown print pants. So they got an easy look at him to find his real face, who tried to fool others, but he was just fooling himself, thinking that he looked like a woman. He didn't even get rid of his mustache and goatee, which made finding his exact identity through CCTV cameras. Jesus, this isn't great. Yep, hang on. How the hell they were thinking that they'd get away with that? Where's it gone? Like, seriously. Is it raining there? It was, but it had sort of stopped the last time that I looked to go and check on the dog. Actually, I might as well just cover this one while we're here. I mean, this was back in 2009. It's been labelled the worst disguise ever. 2 men arrested over a burglary attempt in the US were found with fake beards and masks scrawled on their faces with permanent marker. Police stopped the car of Matthew McNeely, 23, and Joey Miller, 20, after it matched the description of a vehicle used by 2 men who allegedly tried to break into an Iowa apartment last Friday. When officers looked inside the 1994 Buick Roadmaster, they were surprised to find the men with masks, beards, and mustaches painted on their face in some kind of rudimentary disguise. It's a little weird, local police chief Jeff Kaler told Radio Iowa. I've been here long enough that I've seen a few things. I've seen a lot of things, but this one's a little different compared to most. I mean, just the face thing is where it sets it apart. Mug shots of the pair show the black ink scribbles on their faces. A number of US blogs, including popular Huffington Post, described it as the worst disguise ever. The 2 men had been under the influence of alcohol when they devised the idea for their disguises. And for what it's worth, it appeared they had both been drinking quite a bit and maybe weren't thinking quite rationally. No shit. One of the men is also believed to be the owner of the apartment that they were trying to rob. One of the men is also believed the owner of the apartment they were trying to rob was dating his girlfriend. Oh, yeah, because that makes it so much better. McNally and Miller were each charged with attempted second-degree burglary and released on bail. Police Chief Kaler said numerous media outlets had contacted him about the case, with pictures of the 2 men have raised around the internet. In 2005, Australians Luke Carroll and Anthony Prince made international headlines after the pair held up a Colorado bank while wearing name tags and speaking in Australian accents. The pair were reported regulars The pair were reportedly regulars at the bank, so they were quickly identified by their accents. They also took photos of themselves posing with the stolen cash in the public toilet, photos that were later discovered by police on digital camera and became key prosecution evidence. The pair were labelled Dumb and Dumber by the media. Oh, God. Sounds like rain in the background. Oh, no. My laptop's starting to heat up because I've been running Streamlabs for a while. I really will have to look into that Stream Elements. Thank you for the tip on that one, by the way. This disguise will not be easily removed. Nope. Wow, so much stupid. Yep. They were just dressing up as Justin Trudeau. Can we sure that isn't Trudeau? It's one of his favourite pastimes. Oh, God. Here's a marker. Odd no one ended up with drawn penises on their faces. Did I see the Hunter Biden pictures? No, look, I'll be perfectly honest. Hunter Biden doesn't really interest me. No one yet has explained to me why I should find him of any interest, so I've never bothered to look him up. Sunshine's lovely here, but I thought I could hear rain on the video. Thank you. Yeah, no, my fault. I'll move my... Better? When you forget how many times you've gone in blackface, it's a problem. Let's see what the news article was about that. Okay, it's Courier Mail. Because he's an epic fuck up, not a political thing at all. Okay, fair enough. Courier Mail. Dumb and Dumber robber Anthony Prince tells how he survived 4 years inside the US prison. Oh, okay, that's more of a puff piece. I don't really want to give him any sort of news there. Well, if that's all it is, I'll have a look. Was it Hunter Biden? It is a real problem for him. Did you see the reports and footage of those 2 teen girls running amok in Maya David Jones? No, when was that? Let me have a look. Teen girls in... Teen girls... David, Jesus, this could really end badly if I type teen girls in the wrong way. Dan, you're going to have to give me a little more to go on. Oh, it was quite a while ago. Okay, all right, fair enough. At the moment, all that's popping up is clothing styles and shit like that. It's quite unbelievable the goon shit he does while he's the president's son. Okay, do I trust the Vox? Addicts do stupid shit even worse when they have money. Yep. Zero ended up being a meme, motherfucker. Must have missed that one. Alright, so I've literally searched Hunter Biden fuck up. I don't know if you can see that there. Yeah, Hunter Biden takes video of himself doing the most fucked up things. Will he jeopardize his family's campaign? Laptop scandal gets rebooted. Life of Hunter Biden. Joe Biden scandal play. All right, let's try that one. Business Insider. I can always go with them. Hunter Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden's middle child, was the subject of a dubious story published by the New York Post that aired unverified claims about juicy emails and embarrassing images that were said to be found on his laptop. These are from the last few weeks. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the place where shit is shit and fuck is fuck. We save the unredded and so the world. Biden's son was also a major topic. See, the trouble is this to me sounds very one-sided, so... Give me the E. Okay. 50-year-old's personal life has created tension as it played out amid his father's political life for years, and it's now come into sharper focus as his dad led the field for the Democratic voters in this month. Controversies escalated on November 20, 2019, when DNA results confirmed he fathered a child with a different woman while dating Haley Biden. See you, Crystal. His brother's widow. While he dismissed the claims by the child's mother, London Alexis Roberts, earlier in the year, court filings now insist that he accepts the child as his. Hey, beautifully inappropriate. How you doing? C.I. Hunter found himself in Trump's latest scandal and discovered his father again in 2019. Followed his father's political footsteps, returned to family's roots in Delaware, became a career that caused conflict of interest questions. Okay, that's always good. Flexed his connections and rose up the ranks in Washington. Co-founded but resigned from the preserve the optics of his father's campaign. As his father found his place several new business efforts that raised eyebrows. 2018, he launched a consulting firm, co-founded a private equity firm, Rosemont Seneca Partners. New Yorker said that although through his companies and his partners, he's established various business connections to figures in China and Russia. His blooming international business relationships came to a head when his father adopted policy priorities to crack down on corruption in Ukraine, but he was not accused of any formal wrongdoing. Posted the article link above. Oh, okay. I may be missing it. Yeah, Dan, if you can redo it, I can't actually see any links. Only go after the family of politicians if you're comfortable going after all of the families of politicians. I got no issue with that. I hate all politicians equally. I'm just curious because this keeps getting brought up in the media and people in chat mention it to me. So you can't send links in a chat unless you're a mod or Hayden. Oh, okay, that sucks. Just tell me where it's sourced from. I don't need the full link. Tabloid fodder during and after his father's time with the administration. He sparked controversy when he, then 44, enlisted in the Navy Reserves less than 2 years after reports broke that the reserve discharged him in 2014 after he tested positive for cocaine. Okay, I can understand how that's a little bit controversial. Eventually confirmed the news and said in a statement that it was an honor of my life to serve in the US Navy and I deeply regret that I am embarrassed. My actions led to my administrative discharge. I respect the Navy's decision. With the love and support of my family, I'm moving forward. Okay, he then divorced his wife and mother of his 3 daughters. And they acknowledged that he was dating Haley Biden, Bo's widow. That's a bit creepy. Raised eyebrows with a candid New Yorker interview, which he spent the aftermath of his brother's death on a bender that included him buying crack from homeless people. The couple apparently tried to keep the relationship secret, but the former vice president found out when page 6 called him for comment on a story about the relationship. Ouch. Stream ideas. Okay, that works. Thank you very much. Oh, excellent. Okay, I will get to that in a minute then. Oh crap, that opened a few times. I think this has nothing to do with Sleepy Joe. I don't blame him for his son. Others politicians' families involved in corruption. Do you have issues with Trump's spawn? Are people in this nuts? If you had a chance, see Sky News video called Hunter Biden could face federal sex trafficking charges. Probably not on the stream though. No, that's fine. I can watch that on my own. Oh no, I will watch it as for research purposes. That sounded really bad. Biggest public troubles came from questions about his business dealings. So on the board of wait. So he was a board member of a Ukrainian gas production company. Okay. Appointment caused concerns that came as tense time between the White House and Russia over Ukraine and its energy independence. The month of his term expiring on the board, a bombshell New York Times story published on May 1 detailed Joe and Hunter Biden's ties to Ukraine and said the former vice president had successfully gotten Ukrainian prosecutor removed from office. Move raised questions about the possible conflict of interests. Yeah, fair enough. Publicly detailed the threat to withhold $1 billion in loan guarantees from the country if Shogun wasn't... Whoa! However, it's since been reported there's not an active investigation. Despite the presence of proven of wrongdoing, the back and forth has been used by the Trump administration to obscure Rudy Giuliani's communications with Ukraine that were made public earlier this year, and the growing concern that Trump actively collaborated with a foreign power to gain political leverage. That's a hell of an allegation of its own. As Trump ramped up his hits against the Bidens, House Democrats launched an impeachment inquiry into Trump, pressuring Ukraine to investigate the Bidens. Right. Then, on his father's 77th birthday, in the middle of the impeachment hearing, the DNA test confirmed Biden fathered a baby with another woman while he was dating his brother's. Holy shit! Yeah, I see what you mean about him just being a out-and-out screw up. Delivered a speech on August 20, fourth and final night of the Democratic National Convention, endorsing his father's candidacy for the presidential election. I can't think of anyone more that they should have kept the hell away from the presidential election. Ashley and Hunter Biden delivered an emotional speech at the final night of the Democratic Convention where his father accepted the nomination. Being a great father and will think he'll be a great president. Do I need to specify that this guy gave his endorsement to his father and said he'd be a great president, and now we're all calling Joe Sleepy Joe who falls off his bike? Like, I don't even have anything against Biden. He hasn't done anything. Like, I don't know one way or another whether or not he's worth it or anything like that. Because as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't done anything on a political scale. You should see the videos and pics he took. Maybe not lol. So what you're saying is it's something that I need to look at in an incognito tab in Chrome. Fair enough. Thank you for the warning. Titled Senator's Son. Yep. Then Biden thinks his daddy will get him out of trouble. Hunter was at center of controversy again when the New York Post on October 14 published unverified claims about shady emails and embarrassing images that were found on his laptop. Story claimed they'd found a smoking gun email detailing his contact with the Ukrainian official about meetings with his father. However, the article contained a number of red flags, including its sources behind the claims, and it's immediately questioned by more reputable outlets. But the Republicans railed behind the story as evidence of Biden's wrongdoing in the Ukraine. Donald Trump used the story to claim discrimination against conservatives by big tech after Facebook and Twitter tried to tamped down the story spread. What? No. I'm saying that there's nothing on a political scale internationally that I've seen that makes me think, oh, this is what Joe Biden has done since he came into power. I know literally nothing about the man. It is literally, I've seen him fall off a bike. I've known that people call him Sleepy Joe. And I know that he was elected and replaced Trump. That is literally all I know from an international standpoint. And that's pretty well where I've left it. Use Telegram and check out all the info on there. The corruption runs deep. I'm not sure if I'm willing to start up a whole nother social platform. Can you point me to like a Reddit thread or something? Joe's been in power for 40 years. Seen some vids where Hunter's naked going down a water slide with some gal. Also video of said gal sucking him off. Also pictures of drugs. His penis length's probably 6.5 inches. Oh, thank you for adding that. Daddy has got him off. That just happened to be perfectly timed. Thank you for that short order, Cook. And you released the phone message tells his son exactly that. The following day, the Times News had sorted it out. He's been in power for 45 plus years. What he did in the Ukraine was international or no? Well, no, see, that's just it. I hadn't heard anything about it. So when I'm talking about international, I'm talking about international media coverage. It's to the point where since he came into power, I've heard next to nothing about who he is or what he does. That could just be because I've been so focused on what I'm doing here. It could be on any number of things, but there hasn't been enough that knowledge about him has forced its way into my life. So I just don't know. Biden was never going to do much. That's why he was nominated against Trump. Oh, okay. Elected. That's one word you can use, but it doesn't make it the correct word. Okay. Some are saying LGBTQ plus now means let's get Biden to quit plus the rest. He gets into an argument with a hooker over the weight of crack. Oh, Jesus Christ. Naked in isolation tanks, smoking crack and diddling himself. Holy shit. Okay, I'm putting this up there just because you should have probably used better pronunciation and better grammar and the commas and whatnot. Fuck it. His peen is impressive. I'd probably share it too. I'm sorry, Divinity. I had to. Aussie humor. Doesn't matter which politic you take. It's all the same. All do a shit for the people that vote. All do shit for people around the whole. All the same. Yeah, I got you. I knew the true needed info. Yeah. Watch my last few streams. We cover this in some depth. Okay. No, look, that's far better than me having to go on Telegram or something. So thank you. Another vid of him weighing out his crack supply. Hunter is an idiot. He videotaped all this. They aren't allowed to talk about it. Media is his shield. Okay, that would make a certain amount of sense. Lucky Australians know US political news. No, look, that's not strictly true. I'm saying we got a shitload more political news when it was Obama and when it was Trump. Honestly, it sort of pervaded our lives. Like I would see articles on Facebook, I would see articles on Twitter, all that sort of stuff. I don't know if it's just circles that I'm running in now, or it's purely because I've been decrying the mainstream media or what. I'm not seeing as many of those news articles. So I'm not sure if it's just that the Australian media doesn't give a shit about Biden and doesn't think he's actually going to do anything. But apparently I'm going to have to take the initiative to get the effort out and actually look it up myself. The whole world hates Joe and Hunter Biden, corrupt to the core. The troops from Afghanistan, the war, gas prices. Ha ha ha, I was scolded by Hayden for grammar. Well, no, you weren't. That was Divinity. That's why I was laughing so hard. Thank you for all the clips. It's going to look like you're talking about your last weekend when I'm done with you. Oh, shit. Please be nice. I'm a nice guy. You said so in your last video. This is what was found on his laptop, correct? Yeah, okay. Orange Man Bad was respected by foreign powers, meaning that Trump's everything was unpredictably stabilizing towards those who didn't know him. Trump is technically a master at marketing. I kind of feel like his phone was hacked. Okay, interesting. Trump at his heart was a businessman. I can't fault him for that. And look, I'll be perfectly honest. Since I've been dealing with LordTube and learning more about it, I have started leaning a little bit more towards, okay, maybe he wasn't as much of an idiot as the media was portraying him to be. Because I've said it before on my streams. That is literally all I had to go on, was basically the information that I had from the mainstream media. At the time, I didn't care enough to do my own research. So the last few months have been very enlightening. Let's put it that way. I'm not necessarily saying that I agreed with everything, I do think there were some stupid moments there, let's be perfectly honest. And fuck, what is with the fake tan? Seriously, dude. If you're going to get a fake tan like that, at least make it look natural. That's all I'm asking. So that I don't have to laugh at the fact that you look like an orange wearing a toupee. He had a woman for sale in it. Jesus Christ. We should be able to laugh at our politicians without getting defensive. I was casting no aspersions towards His Excellency. Jimmy Dore covered. He released a segment today, I think. Okay, well, that'll give me something to look at before I go to sleep. Allegedly. Hayden entered the dark side. He drone struck a family. Whoopsie, my bad is how he handled it. Are you serious? Trump wasn't respected by the international community. Yeah, look, I think that's probably what it was, honestly. That's why you need to span out your media sources. The MSM in media are hopeless in Australia are hopeless. Yes, and this I have since learnt. I mean, look, for a long time there, the most that I was able to consume was what I was seeing on Facebook. And let's face it, my daughter was watching Paw Patrol and Bluey on repeat, so it's not like I was able to actually even watch the news at certain points. But it's more that since I've been doing this, I've been able to garner information. I've been able to look into things myself because I have my own time. So, that's even funnier, Hayden. It's just that my comment was up at the time. Respected? No. Not just his laptop. He uploaded 43 devices to his iCloud. The iCloud is fucking dangerous. I mean, think about it. Without iCloud, the fappening wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have necessarily had all this information stuck with him. I mean, how many other people have been hacked just because of the iCloud? I mean, it's very surprising given that, Apple touts that they're so fucking difficult to crack, and the FBI couldn't get into a single iPhone or whatever for that period, and whatever else. And yet it's really easy to hack their cloud storage. Like, surely they should have the same sort of protection. Trump is and always will be a grifter. Yeah, he was a businessman. Some of his Twitter posts were not good. Yeah, I agree with that. Gotta admit, Trump did make me laugh. Yeah, see, at least Trump was able to do that. No, Trump was laughed at, and at times we were scared he would actually do what he said. Biden isn't respected. No. I definitely don't think. Trump did legitimately good things. He is a New York City brash-talking schmuck who didn't have foreign powers waging war against each other. His New York City real estate holdings are business drive impressively. Okay. I like the idea of calling them lamestream media because, let's face it, they aren't mainstream anymore. Yeah, that's actually, I might work that into my usage from now on. We should stop to write. Give Hayden a chance to catch up. That's all right. I'm almost there. Trump did tell the world of fake news, then called himself Mr. Trumpinch. Some people drank a lot of Kool-Aid. Yep. I have to agree with the lamestream media. I think I like Farron Trump better. Whoa! Agree to be. Oh, all right, guys. It is 3:15 in the morning. You know what? All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the grift. Someone throws me out there a super chat or a sticker or something, and I will do the laws of the land. Otherwise, I'm going to go to bed. $3:15 grift time. Well, I mean, people keep telling me that I've got to get better at it, so might as well do it in the middle of the morning when my inhibitions are at their best. At least. Oh, fuck it. All right, hang on. I'll come back. Oh, sorry about that. One Hunter crack picture, please. Okay. All right, fair enough. And Divinity sent the super sticker. All right, so between the two of you, I will do the Law of the Land, and I'll have a look at the crack picture. All right. Hunter Biden crack images. Voted for not Trump. All right. Hunter Biden leaked pics. All right, CG, where am I looking? Like, is there a specific website where they were, or? All I'm seeing is things about his crack addict teeth. Is that what we're talking about, or is there something else? Hunter Biden films himself weighing his crack? Where are we? I got a Sky News video of him basically weighing his crack cocaine.
Without the bag.
So how long is
That was Hunter Biden there, filming himself. The video was one of the few pieces of content that the image board website 4chan claims to have hacked from the president's son's iCloud account. A Twitter user under the name of NJ Gloker posted the video.
Going to show anything else
of Hunter.
I'll just, it's all tweets, it's all stuff about Biden. Okay. Check a DM on Twitter. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Much obliged. Okay, so yeah, so it was that. Hunter did sex with his dead brother's widow, then cheated on her with a stripper and does not claim the baby. Great family. Oh, yeah. What was that? The Sky News article heading I posted had pics too. Oh, okay. Is it Hunter Biden? Pictures. Okay, techno trends. What do you got for me? Whoa. That does not look like a guy that has all of his faculties. Hunter Biden is selling his finger paints now for $500K. Fuck, what? He had a fractured skull when he got into the car accident as a child that his mother and sister died in. Oh, shit. Looks like a Rackets viewer. Looks like someone who's just been exposed to unbreaded for the first time. Sitting there with their knees to the chest, just rocking backwards and forwards. Binger! Binger! Get a clean of White Claw hard seltzer and what appears to be a crack pipe. Hunter seen leaving for a brief moment. He continues to take his hits while gazing into a camera and playing soft background music. According to text messages obtained by the Daily Mail, 7-minute video is captured at... Well, so it's a 7-minute video. Bloody hell. Okay, I'm starting to get why everyone's just calling him a screw up, so. Oh, alright, where are we? I'll take that down. Okay, so having a look. What do you reckon today's number's going to be? 124. It's good that we're getting into some of the earlier stuff now, which I'm very happy about. He was in rehab at the time of the film. Oh, so who took it then? That's horrible. Can't figure out if you check Discord or eat. Discord is like the black hole of the internet. Eat, then Discord. Joe's corruption runs deep. About 60 years worth of China and Ukraine in his back pocket. They need to address the many, if true, documents on his laptop, but all they do is talk about it. This is dangerous. It's interesting to think about. Yep. I'm going to put that one up. I'm not going to read it out because unfortunately I think there's people that would be able to turn that into a pretty good screen grab. Poor guy, this is so much worse for him because of who his dad is, never mind being so effed up that, but then having it broadcast to the whole world. Yep. No. As in, she needs to eat, she needs sustenance, then she can go down the black hole. I got booted from so many Telegram sites, I'm scared to join Discord. No, misconstrued. Honestly, go and join the lodge. I'm sure shit not going to kick you out. Crypty's not going to kick you out. I'd probably kick Kiwi out before I kick anyone else out. So, where were we? Sorry, 124. Ooh, okay. So it's an even number. So there is a distinct chance that it will be a photo page. Oh, 22, 23. No, 24. Okay, the Armistead. The scourge of slavery, which divided Americans and inexplicably propelled the nation to war, wasn't unique to 19th century America. The legal ramifications of slavery's international dimension famously presented themselves in the case of the Armistead. In July 1839, the Spanish schooner La Armistead left Havana for another Cuban port, carrying 53 African slaves recently purchased by Spaniards Jose Ruiz and Pedro Montez. 4 days into the journey, the slaves revolted, killing the captain and the crew member and directing Ruiz and Montez to steer them back to their home in Sierra Leone. Instead, the Spaniards deceitfully navigated the ship north. The USS Washington of the Revenue Cutter Service, later the Coast Guard, spotted the Armistead off Montauk, the northeastern point of Long Island in New York, where slavery was illegal, took control of the ship and sailed it to New London in Connecticut, where slavery remained illegal, to try the slaves for piracy and murder. The seizure quickly yielded competing claims. The commander of the Washington claimed the Armistead and all of its cargo as salvage. The United States asserted claims on behalf of the government of Queen Isabella II of Spain. Ruiz and Montez sought to return the return of their slaves. But a committee of abolitionists defended the slaves, insisting that the US courts had no jurisdiction over alleged crimes in Spanish territory, and they retained former President John Quincy Adams to argue before the US Supreme Court. In a 7-1 decision, the court concluded that the Armistead captives hadn't been enslaved legally because they were brought to Cuba in violation of a treaty banning the importation of slaves. Since they weren't slaves, Ruiz and Montes couldn't demand their return to them as their property. Furthermore, the captives were acting in self-defense when they killed the captain and crew member and commandeered the ship, and were therefore not guilty of mutiny or murder. Despite setting the Armistead captives free, the decision didn't repudiate the institution of slavery. Nonetheless, a law scholar, Douglas Linder, notes the Armistead case energized the fledgling abolitionist movement and intensified conflict over slavery, and at that time soured diplomatic relations between the United States and Spain for a generation. Where are we? For over a generation. Okay. And that was today's Laws of the Land. That was interesting. I didn't realize that it was quite so far back. I thought that. Where are we? It's fun, by the way, misconstrued. Yep. Tried to join Discord but failed. Really? Well, I mean, it should be in the pinned chat. Hang on, that's the wrong one. Where's Discord? The Lodge. Invite people. Use the copy button. There we go. If you follow that, it should just take you straight in. A lot of fun, hard to stop when the group is right. Yep. Went to Discord and it just took some data from me. Now I'm getting a whole heap of odd phone calls. Armistead ship, yes. But you can hide your personal info. You should be able to. I was already getting weird phone calls before I joined Discord. Back to being scared, lol. No, fair enough. Hello, Anne. How are you doing? Well done. See you guys later. See you, Divinity. Have a good night. Or day, or whatever. Thanks, Hayden. I just looked that up. Interesting. Yep. Thanks so much for gifting Good Logic membership. So I got one. Oh, congratulations. No, that's fantastic. I try to do that reasonably regularly. It's both to support Joe, but at the same time, it's to show a lot of love for the chat and the members and that sort of thing. At some point, I will try and actually share some in here. How I do that, I have yet to determine, but I'll work that out. Thank you for the reading. You're very welcome. Well, no, I googled pinhole photography once with the kids and the laptop froze on scary pics. I threw it to the ground and the kids are traumatized. Did I get struck yesterday for the TV commercial marathon? Yes. Not for the TV commercials, for aggro, and for Kiwi's bloody rainbow video. I was very surprised because I thought it was going to be the ads that would cause the issues. Aggro, they just wanted the money. Rainbow, they stopped the video from being shown worldwide. So I will be amending and uploading that one to locals and to Utreon. But yeah. Good day, good night. Have a good one. Yep, fair enough. Really appreciate that. I sub to you too. So awesome. You're a great bloke. Oh, thank you very much. Well, look, guys, it's just hit 3:30 in the morning. My wife already knows that I'm still awake, unfortunately, because she got up to make a bottle for the daughter. So I'm going to have to go crawl into the doghouse. As always, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Cheers, guys.